another, and then by the third one, everybody was running. We ran to the back of the store and, found our way into the employee back of house. Some people were kind of running at the pantry. Employees were telling people, this is the exit. We went out the cargo bay and jumped underneath the loading truck that was there and ran up the back of the hill. And now my car is still here, so that's the only reason I'm hanging out. But yeah, it seemed like it happened at this entrance here on the east side, and I was closer to the west side, so it's just, I can't believe it's happening in Boulder, honestly.
And how many people were around? Was it a pretty busy time here inside the store when this happened? We
weren't tripping over each other, but we were single file, just, somebody had their hand on my back, I had my hand on somebody's back, and we were just saying, go, 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 run. When we got to the back of the store, there were employees who still didn't know what was going on, and we just told them to run, But yeah, I'd say it was decently crowded, but thankfully not too crowded.
And when you were trying to make your way to safety, did you guys see anything involving the shooter, anyone injured, anything that was concerning to you?
After the second shot, I was already in an aisle, and I think it happened up by the cash registers. So yeah, I mean, I told my wife I wasn't close enough to be a hero or anything, so just at that point it was just run, get out of there, tell everybody to leave. And yeah, that's what we had to do.
Thank you for sharing your experience. I'm happy to see you're safe.
Thank you.
Yeah. And there you had it, Jim, a really scary experience in there for shoppers. Is busy time just trying to get to safety, and you heard him. He heard it, and he got to safety as quickly as possible, and we're happy to hear that his story is a good one. Yeah, of course, not a sound that you ever want to hear in public, in a grocery store, anything like that, and good on him and the people around him.
They were crying, some of them just staring into the side. You never know what they saw or the fear that they're going through. We can never put ourselves in their shoes, but clearly these emergency workers are trying to console them as they wrap them in blankets here on this sidewalk. This parking lot is about, it's in a very large parking lot away from the entrance now. They were led out of the store, as Kagan was mentioning, with their arms up in the air. And this is what happens. They have to make sure that none of these people were involved in the shooting in any way. Right now, SWAT officers are using notepads to take everyone's name, and they're making sure that they're okay. But they brought them over here to this area of safety. One other thing that we saw as we continue to look at these very emotional pictures from these customers who we believe were in the store, they were taking more battering rams inside the store. And again, I just found that a bit odd, but that may be just part of the strategy that the law enforcement uses when something like this happens. But once again, these, you can see the one lady leaning her head on the shoulder of another, and these people have been through some trauma as these officers continue to arrive here this afternoon, and more emergency workers continue to arrive. The officers, I can hear, are explaining to them the process in terms of what's happening, but certainly Jeremy and Eric say these people are certainly glad just to be okay and in a safe position, at least for now.
You know, Vicente, these are the images that you fear when you hear reports of an active shooter. These are the exact images you don't want to be seeing. And we hate to be bringing these images to our viewers on our airways right now. Still unconfirmed at this point how many have been injured, how many have been hurt. Vicente, you were talking earlier about the SWAT members walking in with devices that looked to potentially, go inside closed offices, locked doors. Do you think, you're a veteran reporter, been reporting in Denver for years, do you think potentially they were there to just search the building to scale and make sure that there were no other suspects?
Absolutely, and when I've covered these types of stories before, they have to make sure it's part of the protocol and of course we should confirm this with any law enforcement types that you're speaking with, and I'll get to that second, and then just a second, but now some of the folks who are inside the store are beginning to move now. I'm not sure where they'll be taking them, but what they will want to do is they will go and debrief them, and they will offer them some sort of counseling to make sure they're okay, but they'll have to take witness statements from all these folks that are walking away from the building and put them in a safe area. Certainly we're not going to try to approach them right now, but they're going to go put them in a safe, warm area, and they'll want to talk to them about what they saw and make sure they're okay. And Aristea, back to your question, that is exactly what I'm thinking. Typically what happens is in a situation like this, they'll want to make sure that the store is secure and that there's no one hiding in there, because right now, if they're able to, they will try to review videotape of the store to see who was in there. If they have access to it, they'll try to make sure that no one is hiding in any nook and cranny in what appears to be a very large store. And I saw at least 3 or 4 different battering rams heading into the store with these hooks that you see firefighters use to open doors. So yes, Aristea, clearly they're wanting to make sure that there's no other danger present in that store at this time. And it's unclear right now if that man that we saw, or that person being taken away in that ambulance who was bloodied and handcuffed, it is not clear what role that person might have played in the shooting here this afternoon. Jeremy and Aristea.
Yeah, on that note, there are some reports that one suspect has been taken into custody. That coming from Boulder police radio traffic as we look live here at SWAT officers escorting people from the scene there right now. What a horrifying sight to see. And we are hearing unconfirmed reports from the building. We don't want to get into those just yet because, as we said, they're not confirmed. But as soon as we can confirm them, we will. We noticed in our view from Skyfox a moment ago that police were paying extra close attention to a vehicle in the parking lot. It was right at the front of the parking lot, looked to be some sort of SUV. It appeared they were sort of combing through the outside of that vehicle, looking through the windows, that sort of thing. Hadn't yet entered it, but appeared to be very curious about what was going on inside of it. We saw 3 air ambulances on the ground that had landed, presumably to help take injured people away from this shooting scene, but we haven't seen anybody loaded into those just yet. In fact, the only person we've seen loaded into an ambulance was that one person who was shirtless and bloodied, wearing handcuffs, being escorted to the hospital there in Boulder just moments ago. Again, we don't know a lot about police tactics or what they do in this situation, but it's safe to assume that even if one suspect is in custody, when you broach a gigantic superstore like that and get inside, you have to sweep the place and make sure that there's no danger in there at all still. And so I can assume that's what's going on now. If not, it will be soon. They have to get in there, go through every row, every nook and cranny just to make sure the danger is gone. If there's one bit of promise we've seen, it's that we've seen several people led away from the building. We assume they are employees and customers, and they were uninjured. We hope that's true of everybody who was inside the store, but we cannot yet confirm that. Our coverage will continue right now here on Fox 31 and our news partners Channel 2 News at 4 p.m. right here as we continue to follow this breaking news. And for those following this breaking news, joining us now on Channel 2 News at 4 p.m., this is an active shooter situation at the King Soopers in South Boulder, just off Table Mesa. Details are few, but we know the call came in around 2:30 this afternoon. Reports of an active shooter. We have moments ago seen somebody led away in handcuffs. They were shirtless, shoeless, and bloodied. We believe that may be a suspect, as there are reports of one suspect under arrest. We don't know anything about injuries just yet, although we have seen 3 air ambulances land and park in a nearby parking lot. And there is a massive law enforcement presence right now at this moment on the south side of Boulder as this breaking news situation unfolds. This is the live scene from Skyfox. We should tell you it is leaving the scene momentarily as law enforcement there has instituted what is called a TFR, a temporary flight restriction, banning aircraft from the area as they continue to investigate this situation. But we do have crews on the ground.
We do have multiple crews on the scene right now. In fact, we're going to go to our Kagan Harsha. We know 3600 Table Mesa Drive, by the way, too, is where this is. It's about 2 miles south of the University of Colorado Boulder campus. Kagan has talked to a couple witnesses so far today. Kagan, obviously, we're still awaiting confirmation from police right now, the extent of injuries, how many injured, unconfirmed reports from Boulder police that one suspect is in custody. We were hearing that just via scanners. What can you tell us from witnesses' accounts and from where you're standing, your vantage point?
Well, I want to give you a vantage point. We're kind of right out front at the edge of the parking lot here in front of the store. And what we're seeing now is officers here in tactical gear going vehicle to vehicle with flashlights, weapons, looking into all these vehicles in the parking lot. Again, this is all part of the police response to situations like this and the tactical response. But we're also seeing, just past them, you can see the front of this building here where we're now getting our first real good view from the front of the store where you can see the windows just blown out, shattered here. Kind of a casualty of what happened here a short time ago. We've been telling you about this huge law enforcement presence. We're seeing dozens upon dozens, I'd say close to 100 officers here in some form or fashion, coupled with paramedics around this building. Police cars everywhere you look, drones above the building. We've also seen a lot of employees in the last few minutes being escorted out here to police vehicles. You can tell they're obviously shaken up by the way they're walking past this, being escorted, ducking behind cars as they try to get away from this scene. And we believe the officers here are still just making sure there's no other suspects involved in this. It's definitely a very active scene still, as you can see a lot unfolding here with looking into vehicles. But we do know, a lot of witnesses we've spoken to. We talked to a man inside the store who was telling us that every customer in the store got down on the ground. They could hear those gunshots. They could see that man in tactical gear out in front of the store shooting several shots, fully wearing tactical gear. Again, they believe that's the same man who was escorted out a short time later, bleeding, wearing nothing but underwear, but definitely going vehicle to vehicle now, looking for possibly any other suspects in this situation.
All right, Kagan, thank you. Speaking of suspects, we have some video we do want to show you from a short time ago. This was video taken from Skyfox as they led away somebody who appeared to perhaps be a suspect. You're going to see two people coming out of the store here. First, you can see that guy in what appears to be a light-colored coat, hands near his head. We believe that's a customer or an employee of some sort. He is being taken to safety, but just a few feet in front of him, as you'll see just moments from now, as the camera pans, there is what I should say a few feet, yes, a few feet in front of him, right there as the camera pans. You're going to see what we believe may be the suspect. This is that shirtless, bloodied man, loosely matching the description of one of the witnesses we talked to earlier. Has dark hair and a beard. You can see he's wearing shorts, no shirt, no shoes, and that right leg of his is exceedingly bloodied. He was led away by law enforcement and first responders to an ambulance that was then driven across town to the hospital in Boulder. We believe this may be the suspect, although no confirmation from Boulder police at this moment. We await those details. In fact, we await all details. The only information from Boulder police came out over an hour ago, and that was just a brief tweet saying that there was an active shooter situation at this King Soopers grocery store on the south side of Boulder. You can see that man limping away. He was led to one ambulance and then taken to another, and that is the only person that we've seen transported so far, despite the fact that 3 air ambulances sit on the ground there outside the King Soopers.
Yeah, the one thing to give us some color we've been able to contribute here since we've been on the air just over an hour is multiple witness accounts. We do have several reporters on scene right now, and those witness reports all corroborating one another, talking about, well, we're looking to some running that's going on. Just the frantic nature, it looks like, of shoppers that are being escorted away from the scene. Obviously, any bit of activity or intensity, we're going to bring it to you as the story does continue to develop. But back to those witness accounts. We've got Ashley Michaels on the scene, perhaps more color to tell us about the activity we're seeing. Ashley.
Hey, Aristea, I'm going to step away from the camera for just a second so we can show you what is going on. Everybody who was on that sidewalk where Kagan Harsha was just live has just now scurried back away from the store, and that's because we just heard police or SWAT come over the loudspeaker saying that you are surrounded. Please sit up in your vehicle. Police are actually telling us to get back and behind the building right now. They say they have a suspect surrounded in a vehicle. They're asking him to sit up and surrender right now. You can see this happening live. Police are coming right to us, telling us we need to get back as far as possible and to seek shelter behind buildings. Jeremy and Aristea, we're going to send it back to you.
Go do that.
Yeah, you need to get to a safe place.
We'll get to another camera crew if we can. If not, we'll just bring it back to our cameras here as we continue to bring this breaking news. Again, our chopper coverage had to end because of a TFR, a temporary flight restriction put into place by local law enforcement. They wanted aircraft cleared out of the area. Our Kagan Harsha, though, is on the scene, on the ground, as we see more people being led away from the store. And Kagan, you know, we talked about that one person we presumed was a suspect being led away earlier, the guy with the bloodied leg. But we did notice moments ago they were paying a lot of attention to a vehicle in the parking lot. Were you able to see that from your vantage point at all? Do you know the car we're talking about?
Yeah, and we can show you that vehicle right now. We're actually right across from it. Just a moments ago, we were actually across the street from where we are now. You could hear law enforcement on those loudspeakers saying, "You are surrounded." They said he was slouching in his vehicle. The suspect was slouching in their vehicle to sit up. "You are surrounded." We heard that message, and then we were quickly told to get across the road here. And so you're looking right here. This is the area they're focusing on, that vehicle they're focusing on. And we told you just moments ago, you came to us, they were going vehicle to vehicle, looking into some of these with flashlights, surrounded with tactical gear, officers in tactical gear, and that's when they discovered this individual inside this vehicle. And everybody was quickly told to get across the street, and they were telling that person they were surrounded and to sit up and to surrender.
Okay.
So that's what we're seeing at the moment. If we look down, and they're quickly blocking the scene off down here, quickly surrounding or expanding their parameter here around this scene. They were kind of laxing these barriers, and we've seen this heavy law enforcement presence, and they're stretching this tape out everywhere we can see it at the moment.
Yeah, make sure you're at a safe distance. Yeah.
And is it safe to say you think that this could potentially be a coordinated attempt now? Obviously, they're expanding the parameter of the scene. It seems that they're talking to an additional suspect. We know the other suspect had already been led away by officers. So would you say at this point it's safe to at least speculate this could be coordinated?
I mean, it's hard to say that. Obviously, they have reason to believe there might be another suspect based on the way they were searching these vehicles and the fact they believe they have identified someone else in one of these vehicles who they are telling to surrender. But based on how they're expanding this perimeter, it does believe they think there's a sudden danger that wasn't here moments ago. They were letting us get pretty close to the scene. We are in a safe position now. They told us to stand back here. But this is definitely, a change scene from what we saw moments ago. And as I say that, we're being pushed back a little bit further here. So it doesn't believe they necessarily knew there was another suspect involved, but something that led them to believe there might be after finding an individual inside one of these vehicles. We don't know what's happened with that individual, I should point out.
Real quickly, we can say the Boulder Daily Camera now reporting that Boulder Community Health confirming at least one person transported from the King Soopers shooting to Foothills Hospital. And we believe that was the person without the shirt with the bloodied leg who was limping away from the scene in handcuffs. We saw that ambulance driving into the parking garage of the hospital, and we believe that is the victim or the person that they are talking about right now. Actually, we're just getting this confirmation. Actually, it is confirmed. Yes, they are treating one patient. Situation still unclear. They will keep us in the loop as soon as we learn more.
And it's interesting, too, Vicente Arenas just minutes ago was saying to us, kind of painting the picture and saying, it's interesting, these officers, he didn't feel the relaxed kind of disposition that oftentimes, not a relaxed, let's just say, not as high alert typically as they would be in an active shooter situation. He said he didn't quite feel like it was over. And now here we are seeing, as Kagan just described to us, the parameter being extended. And as Ashley Michaels, wow, in a really intense live shot, just told us she heard them over the loudspeaker saying that they needed to back away, and as they were talking to somebody who appeared to be in the vehicle. Now, one does wonder, was that the same vehicle that the first suspect drove in, and perhaps was this other person waiting as a getaway car, or were there multiple vehicles? The first witness that we talked to, Brian, had told us that he saw shooting happening in the parking lot. And I do wonder, Kagan, if you can still hear us, is there evidence of any cars or windows being shattered in that parking lot? Or Greg Nieto is actually on the scene for us. Greg, from your vantage point, I don't know if you can hear us. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can? Looks like Greg is trying. Yep, he can. Greg, hey, appreciate you being out there. Make sure you're in a safe position for us, first and foremost. Secondly, any evidence of any car windows being shot? We talked to a witness about an hour ago who said that he noticed the gentleman with the AR-15 rifle-style weapon shooting at vehicles. Does it look like there was an active scene there in the parking lot?
Well, yeah, I believe that to be the case, definitely. When we're talking about what is developing since 2:30. Now, we are at the intersection of Table Mesa and Broadway to kind of set it up for you. We're kind of behind at least one building, but I don't think I've ever seen this much law enforcement response in my career. It's not only Boulder Police, Boulder Sheriff, but we're seeing agencies from Broomfield. DPD is up here as well, as both Kagan and I believe Nicole had mentioned. We're just behind a kind of a PIO type vehicle vehicle with the sheriff's office where they were, again, playing that recording. This is the SWAT team, basically giving commands to do what they say. We also saw a number of folks that must have been released, just from a visual standpoint, must have been released from the store itself, and they were being escorted across Table Mesa to a safe spot, and then they were being told to get to the other side of the street. But again, this has kind of been ground zero, if you will, for law enforcement from all over the metro area showing up here. And again, obviously the pictures say it all.
Greg, real quickly, while you're there, we're just hearing
Greg.
from the governor. Governor Polis tweeting moments ago, like my fellow Coloradans, I'm closely watching unfolding events at King Soopers in Boulder. My prayers are with our fellow Coloradans at this time of sadness and grief as we learn more about the extent of the tragedy. Of course, we know that Governor Polis calls Boulder home. He's no doubt been to this very store, I'm sure, and so this hits close to him as he informs the people of Colorado via Twitter that he is closely watching, as you all are, these events unfold live here on TV. Again, this active shooter situation reported about 2:30 this afternoon on the south side of Boulder at the King Soopers store just off Table Mesa Drive. And we have seen one person led away bloodied into an ambulance, but we have so few details about what else has gone on inside this store, except from an eyewitness who early on told us that he saw somebody in tactical gear with an AR-15 style weapon firing shots. It sounded like fireworks at first, but that guy, Brian, helped clear the store and hopefully saved some lives today, too. We have reporters on the scene, for sure. We have reporters on the scene, about 6 of them, I believe. Pat, who are we going to again? Vicente Arenas. He's got a witness. Let's go to Vicente.
I do, and Jim was inside the store. Jim, walk me through what you saw happen.
Well, I didn't see anything. It's what I heard. But I was in the back of the store toward the meat, and all of a sudden I heard I think we all, like 5 people around me, heard something that sounded, in retrospect, it sounded like a misfire. Didn't know what it was at the time. But then, within a second or two, there was just a cadence of pop, but it was more of a full, sound that I'd never heard before, and it was obvious it was a very dangerous situation. And so I was near the front of a stampede that just headed out and didn't know where a door would be in the back. We just went flying through those doors, and we all just rushed and jumped about 5 feet down from the loading dock and just ran for our lives. And
All right. We're having some microphone problems with Vicente there. But Aristea, as you heard him, that witness say, he sort of backs up what we heard from Brian Crucy early on in this, and that is that people heard these shots. They rushed to the back of the store. They exited that emergency exit out by the loading ramp, and they got out of there. And that quick action, you can only assume, saved some lives today.
Unbelievable when he told us that. I mean, just minutes really after it happened, you think a lot of people wouldn't have taken that route. That man, as I said earlier on, definitely going to be a name that you hear often as the story develops. We have seen police continue to escort shoppers as well out of the store. Our Vicente Arenas telling us earlier that people were going into the store with their battering rams. We thought possibly to scale the store to make sure there were no additional victims. We know 3 air ambulances had arrived. That was at least from our vantage point as we brought you Skyfox. We do plan to get Skyfox up here momentarily, and we have about 4 crews on the scene as well. At about 3:45, we saw police lead someone in handcuffs out of the store. Interesting enough, that person had no shirt, no pants, and with what looked like a bloodied leg. They then put that suspect into an ambulance. And then just about 10 minutes ago, our Ashley Michaels live as it was happening, telling us that SWAT seemed to be talking to another person, potentially a suspect, that was inside of a car that they had seemed to be surveying for a period of time. So we are waiting on confirmation on several different things. How many injured, extent of the injury. We do have 1 confirmed injury at a nearby hospital. But the way several of these witnesses have made it sound, at least at this point, they heard several series of gunshots fired. So we are calling area hospitals right now and seeing if we can get any more information information as to how many have been transported. Jeremy?
Yeah, witness Daniel Douglas told us he was in the store grabbing lunch. He said, as we were waiting on the pizza, we started hearing gunshots. Sounded like someone was breaking the glass at first. We started screaming and hit the ground. He said a lot of people were crying. My nerves are so racked right now. He said, I'm having a hard time talking, and we can understand that. Our Nicole Fierro on scene right by the police tape just outside that King Superstore. We could see some people behind that police line, just behind you there. We assume maybe that's a law enforcement officer. They've got you all backed up, right?
Yeah, Jeremy, let me just get out of the way right away to show you. I mean, this very active scene here. You can see all of the police and tactical gear. We've seen several bomb squad vans come over here. The greatest police presence I've ever seen here. Trucks, cars, every light's flashing. It's a very, very active. Now, this is where we will hear from a public information officer, hopefully at some point. And just to show you how much of a team effort this is, we're hearing from a public information officer in Broomfield telling us Boulder is tweeting out an update any minute now, so that they're all teaming together to try to make the situation safe and get us the information as soon as possible. But walking up here, you know, I spoke with several people. They feel so lucky. They were planning to go into the King Supers. They didn't, but they heard from couples that were inside and an employee. This one family so shaken up, telling me that they heard from an employee who saw a man get shot several times. They heard from a couple who just got married. They were going and getting groceries, and then they went out a secret exit, she says, and they are safe. Everyone who lives in this area telling us they just can't believe this is happening. They're so shaken up. Everyone knows everyone in this King Supers. They know the employees, so they are so worried. They, like us, waiting for an update, waiting to learn anything we can. We are told, though, in just a few minutes that we can expect an update on Twitter. We're refreshing now, and as soon as we can get any information, any interview, we will bring it live from right here. But as you can see, very active scene right here behind me. The King Supers all the way down here, but you can see how many police ambulance. There's 4 or 5 ambulance right over here, several more up there. Everywhere we've got our Arvada fire ambulance, paramedics. You got them from all over the place. It's a huge team effort to try to contain the situation, but as we are told, it's a very active one, and that everyone here is on alert. You do see people with tactical gear, with guns, running back and forth several times in the few minutes we've been here, coming back towards this area now.
Nicole, on that note, you know, we just saw Ashley Michaels about 10 minutes ago talking about SWAT officers yelling into a vehicle with their loudspeakers to exit the vehicle, keep their hands up. Any more activities surrounding a vehicle from your vantage point, or have you heard any more from the SWAT officers potentially looking for a second suspect?
I did hear that radio announcement a few minutes ago. I do see a man running this way right now. It seemed like more crews were going closer towards the King Supers and whatever vehicle may be over there, but it's eerily quiet at this moment. It looks like everyone's just eyes are peeled on that one direction right by that King Supers right now, as ours are too, looking for any update.
Yeah, and we should say...
shoppers...
Sorry, go ahead, Aristea. Go ahead.
Our shoppers, this is the nature of being separated in studios. We apologize. We're trying to take safety measures with coronavirus. Nicole, are shoppers still being escorted out, or does it seem like they've pretty much exited the center at this point?
From where we are, we're here on Broadway, where it is completely taped off. The only people I am seeing moving around this area of the parking lot are all first responders, police, SWAT. That's what we're seeing right now. I don't see any regularly dressed customers or community members in here in this blocked off area right now.
All right, Nicole Fierro, one of our 7 reporters on the scene there. If there's an upside to this, and we do always try to find one in these situations, it is that the store was not terribly busy at the time. That, according to Brian Crucy, who was inside checking out when those first shots were fired. He said that thankfully Monday morning, not too busy, and that was good news, it appears. Our Michael Konopasek on the scene as well. Michael, where are you? What do you see?
Hey, Jeremy, we got here a short time ago. Let me tell you, though, we are, you can see the King Supers here in the distance. It is hard to overstate just how many law enforcement vehicles are here. We see those from the pictures, of course, but one thing that I did see that I want to point out here is Okay, so this guy's telling us that the ambulances are going to be coming out the way that we're standing. So we're going to move over, Dan. Just come over just a little bit, just in case. We just want to be prepared for that. One thing that I did see is where you saw that officer come up to the yellow tape, just a short time ago, another officer came up to the tape and asked a bystander what he saw. So this is all still very fluid here outside of the King Soopers. Police are still trying to piece this together, of course, but it looks like they're still trying to get some of those eyewitnesses, even, more than an hour after this has all started. I'm not sure how many of those eyewitnesses may have scattered beyond this parking lot that we see right here, but they have been coming up to the yellow tape again to ask people, what have you seen, trying to get more of those eyewitnesses.
Yeah, we would like to update the information you see at the bottom of your screen where it says active shooter at King Soopers on Table Mesa. That is the most recent information we have from Boulder Police. That came out in a tweet about an hour ago, and they have yet to give us more information. We understand it is busy, and they are in the middle of trying to figure out what exactly has gone on inside that store. So many details we're waiting on still. Number of injured, information on the suspect. What led up to all this? What about those eyewitness descriptions of this man in tactical gear? As we look live here from our crew, you can see this newer method of law enforcement, a drone in the air. Just what an interesting backdrop there with the mountains of Boulder. Just behind it, there's Chautauqua Park and the cliffs there, as they try and figure out what's gone on inside that store. Yeah, you know, look, we don't paint any Colorado town as utopia, although those of us who live here and love it enough like to think that everywhere we live and play is a bit utopia-like. But Boulder has a certain air about it where you truly just don't expect this sort of thing. It's a pretty laid-back place. You shouldn't.
And the serenity of the mountains, sorry, Jeremy, behind it, with the juxtaposition of the drone flying in front of it. And what's particularly disconcerting to me is so many of our veteran reporters, Greg Nieto, 2 decades reporting in Colorado, saying that this was the most massive amount of law enforcement presence that they have ever seen. So whether that's an indication of quick response time, we're hoping by these agencies, and hoping it's not an indication of the magnitude of what they're dealing with, but that to come. We're understanding Nicole Firo said we should get an update here within the next couple minutes.
Yeah, we just got a new tweet from Boulder Police a couple of minutes ago. Still active scene, Table Mesa and Broadway. Stay away, please avoid the area. They tweeted a picture much like the images you're seeing of the scene there, with lots of ambulances on the ground and lots of people standing by. We understand, too, from Boulder Community Health, one patient is on the way. They say the situation is still very, very unclear at this point. Jeremy? Yep. Again, for those just joining us, this is live, continuous coverage of breaking news that happened around 2:30 this afternoon. Reports of an active shooter in the parking lot at the King Soopers on the south side of Boulder. If you're familiar with the area, if you make the drive into Boulder, either from Highway 36 or Highway 93 from the Denver metro area, you'll come upon this store there on the south end of town, south of the University of Colorado campus. Busy street, usually a very busy store. It's in a strip mall area with lots of restaurants and stores nearby. But again, thankfully, according to one witness on a Monday morning, or Monday afternoon, I should say, when this all began, it was not terribly busy inside. And so that's good news. Although we have seen lots of people come from the scene, what we assume were workers and customers inside the store. And we know that there are people in the parking lot and nearby looking for their loved ones who were at the store or near the store at the time and perhaps have not yet made that connection. Vicente Arenas, are you seeing some of that too?
You know, we're still kind of in the same position that we were earlier, but one of the heartbreaking moments of a scene like this is there is a man here who's been frantically running around. I tried to talk to him for just a second or two, but he's searching for his son. His son works at Starbucks. He was out of breath. He was on the verge of tears, and this is something behind the scenes that we don't always see. We see all the flashing lights and the police officers, but the family members of people who have people in this store, they're trying to figure out where they are. And so that was just one of those moments at a scene like this when you cover something like this, you see this happening and your heart just breaks for the people trying to determine where their loved ones are. He said his son works at Starbucks. He didn't know if he was okay. We did see like a very large number of people that were inside the store. They were put into a bus and led away from here. They'll be taken away and they'll be debriefed somewhere else and to make sure they're okay. And you heard from the guy that we talked to just a moment ago, and he's still here if we want to hear from him again. again, in case you didn't hear all of his sound, but he was saying that he believes that the shooting took place somewhere in the middle of the store in an aisle, and he said at one point that it sounded like there were a gun misfired, and he said before the shooting happened, it was very quiet inside the store. It was extremely quiet, and he said they just all ran for their lives outside the front door. We're being told that we should be getting some sort of briefing here sometime soon. The police officers have been talking to us for just a moment ago, but again, many of them just staging still in the area. The SWAT officers' cars, the armored units are still in front of the building. But they appear to be kind of. I see some of them running inside this, away from the store now, running towards us, and I don't know why they're running towards us right now, but they are, and they're kind of moving in a hurry, and I don't know what that means. It could mean anything, but usually when they're running like that, it's for a reason. I don't know exactly why. We were told just a moment ago that they would try to move some of the folks away from the area where we're standing, but that's kind of what I'm seeing here. Everyone's still staging, standing by to handle whatever situation might develop here. Just a moment. Drones still over the parking lot. And I believe there is one law enforcement plane flying above the area allowed to fly here because it is law enforcement. I believe that it's an observation plane, could be from CSP at this time. So that's what I'm seeing on the ground here. I'll check back in with you guys as soon as I have something more. If you have any questions, let me know. Jeremy and Aristeo.
Yeah, Vincent, a quick question for you. We heard about 20 minutes ago that police were going car to car in the King Soopers parking lot. Does it still seem like they're surveying the parking lot? And what is happening with that car? We keep asking our reporters the car that they were surveying at one point earlier. Actually, we're going to... Vicente, let's get back to that question in a second. We're going to go straight to our Nicole Fierro right now with a witness. Nicole.
And just kind of be on the scene since the beginning.
And sir, for those joining us right now, we are speaking with a gentleman who was inside, left shortly before it happened. What did you hear? What did you see?
We heard gunshots going off. It sounded like a heavy caliber type, maybe a shotgun. And so I have a live stream, so I fired up immediately, and I never saw anyone, but I saw some victims on the ground as I came around the corner. So I knew what was happening. I knew there was a live shooter situation.
How many victims do you estimate that you saw?
I only saw 3, but I heard at least a dozen shots, if not more.
What's going through your mind right now? How are you feeling? I can't imagine seeing victims. I mean, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, I have some friends who are in there who are very close to me, so I'm just hoping that they're all right. I'm waiting to hear from more. I don't know do you guys know if they've even caught the shooter, or is this still an active situation?
We are told it's an active situation right now. They're going to get us an update momentarily, but we haven't heard one yet.
Right.
Just waiting to hear. Are you're worried too? You were right out there. How long after would you say that you left before the gunshots were
It
coming?
wasn't even a minute. It was 30 seconds, 45 seconds. So, yeah, immediately.
And you live in this area?
Yeah, I live right across the street.
So you're probably still just processing this all right now.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll set in later. But as for now, like I was telling them, I'm a journalist. I'm used to a little bit more intense, high energy situations. So this isn't totally out of my realm of understanding. But
Our anchor has a quick question for you. Do you mind if I relay it?
Yeah,
Yes.
Nicole, if you could ask him. He said he saw 3 victims. What was the condition of those victims?
You saw 3 victims. What was the condition of those victims?
They were lifeless, not moving, face down. I could not tell if they were even breathing.
And that was right outside in the parking lot, or?
There were 2 outside in the parking lot and 1 directly inside the door that I saw.
Could you tell if they were shot in the parking lot, or did they come out from the store into the parking lot?
I couldn't answer that exactly. My guess is they were shot right where they laid. So the first 2 probably got shot outside the building, and the first person that he saw when he came in was the first victim, is my guess.
Nicole, one quick follow-up. Did any of them appear to be law enforcement?
Blood, which is a little unusual, I guess.
Did you see people running out?
Pardon me, Jeremy?
Real quickly, did any of the victims appear to be law enforcement?
Everyone had already ducked and covered. So, I mean, I saw groceries and carts left abandoned, and it looked like everyone was hiding or gone.
Did any of those victims that you saw, did they appear to be law enforcement or regular customers?
They look like regular customers. Law enforcement had not arrived yet.
Sir, I can't.
And Nicole, he said he
heard
the gunshots.
Does he? Thank you so much.
One more question.
He did hear gunshots.
He said he heard the
did.
gunshots. Does he say what path does he think the gunman took? Does he think it was from the parking lot into the store?
Can you spell that?
DeanSchiller.
Do you think that the gunshots, when you heard them, were they coming from inside the store, out in the parking lot? Do you know what direction they were?
At first they were outside for sure, and then they were definitely inside after that. Yep.
All right, there you have it. That's Dean Schiller, one of the witnesses there, our Nicole Fierro, talking to him, and he's giving us really the most information we've heard so far, and some of it not great details to relay. He says he saw 3 lifeless victims, not moving, face down, 2 of them in the parking lot, 1 just inside the store. He heard about a dozen gunshots. He thought they sounded like shotgun, heavy caliber rounds. Again, we heard earlier that one witness saw what appeared to be an AR-15 style rifle there, and the gunman in tactical gear. But again, this the most detailed information from Dean Schiller, who was live streaming much of this on YouTube throughout the afternoon, and we had heard about this YouTube live stream. We had monitored it in our newsroom. We certainly didn't want to share that live with you because of some of the things he was seeing in real time and conveying on YouTube. We didn't want to bring those to you live because obviously not great. We are just hearing from, there is some scanner traffic that Boulder police have cleared the King Soopers building. So that would explain why, if true, why we're not seeing much of a frantic scene outside in the store right now. But we do have Brian Crucy on the phone with us, actually. Let's get back to Kagan. We'll get to Brian in a moment. He was the other eyewitness who was talking to us just after this unfolded. But Kagan's on the scene there. Kagan, what are you seeing?
Well, we are still right across the street, kind of the front of the store. We've been watching a lot of activity here with those shattered storefront windows, and I am standing here now next to Brandon, who was just about a block away when this all started, and kind of describe, I know you sent us some videos. We're going to try to get you on air here in just a few moments, but what'd you hear? What'd you see?
Originally, I was just sitting at the light, and I had heard the gunshot, and that's when I looked over to my left, and at that point, I was watching somebody flee from about halfway to the parking lot towards the grocery store. But I was watching people flee from that scene, and I thought initially it was right in front of the Asian kitchen. And I just, with everything going on, I figured it had something to do with that perhaps, but it was enough to draw my attention. And then as soon as I was about to turn the corner here, I saw the first officer respond, and that's when something just didn't seem right because he stopped short. He didn't pursue or proceed into the parking lot. But at that point, I thought that the suspect was wearing like a tan shirt. But when we saw, the guy came out with no shirt on.
And you heard how many gunshots, kind of what did you hear? And then you also saw officers walking into another store here.
So the reaction was I heard just the one shot. And then I saw, when I came up here to the side, that's when I saw officers, I guess from Boulder County, storm the one store above, Snarf's basically. And then, while we were sitting here, just, 45 minutes later is when we heard dozens of shots coming in from the inside. And, I mean, you could hear the significant difference between the gunshot that occurred in the parking lot versus the shots that we heard inside the store.
And you were saying at least a dozen is what you thought you heard?
Probably close to 2, maybe a full clip.
And I know you sent us video. You can actually hear some of those gunshots and see some of this unfolding. Also, you said you could tell that suspect, again, we've got video of him, it looked like he had an injury of some kind.
Yeah. When we saw the suspect come out, you could tell he was bleeding from the leg. Thinking it was just protocol when they had him in custody, but they really didn't seem to care less about walking through the parking lot. But while we were standing here, prior to that, prior before them going in, while they were getting people together and ready to assemble, you could hear shots coming from inside the store.
Did you see any of those employees leaving the store? Did you get a chance to talk to any of those witnesses or people that might have been inside?
I didn't get a chance to talk to any of them, but we did get to see the Starbucks employees come out. And a little old woman who works at Starbucks inside there. It was nice to see her come out. But you could definitely see that some of the hostages, or one old gentleman who first came out, you could tell he was just shook. And I mean, there was a guy with a Twitter feed had a video of just him standing in the front entrance going nuts because they couldn't tell if the shooter was inside. And by the time they realized that they thought the shooter was in the parking lot, he was inside of the store taking shots.
And you'd actually planned to go into that store. You got a little delayed.
I was going to get a Starbucks, yeah. I was one light away from being inside. Yeah.
So back out here live, guys, and Brandon, thanks so much for that. Definitely an active scene. We've seen a lot of the commotion. We talked about that vehicle that officers, these teams, SWAT teams were focused around. Doesn't seem to be so much attention on that vehicle at this point. We don't really know what happened there, but definitely we've seen them going through the parking lot, still looking into vehicles, and every now and then we'll see them kind of running across the parking lot. So definitely it does not appear that this scene is far from being over.
Okay.
Kagan, so heartbreaking to hear, too, those testimonies. I mean, like the little Starbucks employee. Here they were waiting for their friends one by one to come out. We can only imagine. We thank you for that. Want to get right now to our Brian Crucy, who we talked to early on in this. Brian, thank you so much for continuing to give us this live coverage. You were the first person we talked to give us information. And again, we can't highlight enough how impressed we were with your heroism. We know that you heard shots in the parking lot. You ran in to the store to alert the patrons that there was somebody who was actively firing an AR-15 rifle-style weapon. A question for you, Brian. I don't know if you've been able to follow our coverage thus far, unfortunately, and it was heartbreaking to hear, again, witness account, nothing confirmed, but we just heard a witness tell us that he did see several lifeless, not moving victims in the store. Were you watching when he told us that?
Yeah, I did hear that. It really was pretty disturbing to hear, because I just feel like I must have seen those people while I was in the store, because I was there at that exact moment when he started shooting. So I hope that it was just people that were lying down, ducking for cover, but to hear that is very disturbing.
Hey, Brian, are you near a TV right now? I wonder if you can watch our live signal right now on Channel 31, because we're showing video of the man led away in handcuffs. He's shirtless. He's wearing shorts or underwear, it appears. He's got a really bloody right leg. He's hobbling. He's being taken away in handcuffs. You told us when you were live on the air with us that the gunman you saw, and again, it was a brief view, I know that because you were moving pretty fast, but you saw what appeared to be a dark-haired guy with a beard in tactical gear. Any idea if this matches that person you saw?
I'm on the internet watching your feed.
Yeah. You might be a little delayed.
Just a live feed.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not sure. I don't know for. Let's see. Is this? I think they're showing it now.
Oh, okay, Brian. Appreciate it. We know that you'll stand by for us all night, as you have. We really appreciate it. I know this has been a harrowing incident for you and your family and your wife and everybody who loves you, but we are happy that you're okay and giving these crucial details to us right now. I want to go to Michael Kanapasa. Key 2 is on the scene, one of our 7 reporters covering this story live in Boulder right now. Kana, where are you? What's happening there?
Jeremy, right now there's an interview going on right outside the King Soopers. Let's take a listen to see what this gentleman heard.
It's just like eye-opening for everybody. I think it really just like convicts us a lot, because like we really want to share the gospel with people and like share Jesus and like the love that he has for people, and like, we just never know when they're gonna go. Like we could walk past someone during the day and they could die later on that day, and like they didn't know who God was. You know?
Did you see the shooter?
No, we didn't see him, but we saw people like running towards us, like towards the back, because I think that was the safest place. But we did talk to someone that was at the front that had just walked in and
saw someone go down.
He said that he saw someone go down, and yeah, it's just a terrible thing. But
what do you remember after the gunshots and when you were running up? What do you remember seeing?
So she ran off. I told her just like get the heck like miles away from here. And I stayed like in the back area, like where a ton of people were coming through, because I was like, dang, this guy could like come out and start shooting these guys. I want to make sure they're like as far away as they can be. And so another guy named Michael, he was great, he was lovely, but we were helping people get away. And I remember seeing more people run away, the cops coming up, like their response was awesome. Like, thank God for these guys.
How fast would you say it was until police arrived?
It's probably like 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2.5 minutes.
Or maybe less. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we're just hoping that everybody really just has a moment to think about their hearts and where they're at with God, and just to know that like Jesus loves them. And
how many injured?
Crazy about them. I don't know.
We're not quite sure.
We saw a live stream of a couple people on the ground. I think there's like around 10 that we saw like on the live stream.
There was for sure
like
a couple like in the front of King Soopers, and then there were some like in like the parking lot.
Yeah.
Now you're out.
So you said you saw some out front. Like, could you tell if the shooter was coming from the outside to the inside or vice versa?
Outside to inside is what I think it was, because I don't know if the first shot was quieter because he was outside and we were still hearing it from the like inside, or if he was just like inside, like just entering in.
When you mention a live stream, what are you talking about?
There was someone just on YouTube that like had like a live stream of it. It was one of the workers in King Soopers.
You saw a worker's live stream, and then you said you were estimating 10 injured?
Potentially, yeah, is what we were thinking.
Yeah, so...
In any injured that you saw outside of the live stream just as you were trying to get out?
No, I saw a lot of people running towards us. I was like trying to make sure there wasn't anybody injured. That's why it stayed a little bit longer. But there was a good, probably like 50 people that were running in the back there, maybe 40.
How busy was this King Soopers when everything was happening?
It's probably like...
It was
not
too
busy as like the peak, but it was probably like half.
How were people escaping? Of course, when you're at a grocery store, you know where the exit is, but it might not be very close to you.
Yeah, so for us at least, yeah, I was like standing right next to, like I was like a couple steps away from like the main emergency exit, and I think most people just knew to like run to the back, because I think most people knew that it was in the front of the store, but they like were like, well, my best guess is to run to the back for an emergency exit. So
not a lot of people came out of the exit that we went out though. Probably like 10 people, I'd say.
From everything that you experienced, what is your feeling as far as suspect or suspects? How many would you say? One?
No, probably two.
It's probably, yeah, more than one. Just because when there were like a couple that went off at first, and then there was a pause, and then it was like really fast. And it was probably like 15 to 20 in like 15 seconds. So we suspect that it must have been more than one.
This seemed like a premeditated deal. Did you see the suspects? Did you see what they were wearing?
No.
Okay.
We've heard that they were wearing
tactical
SWAT gear and stuff, but
we didn't like see them, so we don't know.
Did you see that the gentleman who was being taken away in the handcuffs in the video?
Picture of it, yeah. Because we like left and we were just trying to make sure people were getting away, and we were going praying with people, and took a girl back home to her house, so we didn't stay around too long afterwards. I don't even know what time it is right now.
I'm sure. Is there anything else that you would like to add that we may have missed out on asking?
I mean, just for the audience to know that like Jesus loves them and that he's with them, and regardless of this evil act that happened, like God is so much bigger than that. And Satan's not going to win the day. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Faith obviously so important during these trying times, and yes, what they did see, of course, absolutely evil. I think the biggest takeaway, and we have been wall-to-wall coverage on this for a while now, and I'll go ahead and show you just how much we see here. But I think the biggest takeaway, Jeremy and Aristea, that we got out of that is that from everything that they experienced, they say that they're confident that there was more than one suspect.
Yeah. All right. Michael's apologies. Our producer was talking in our ear there. We are getting just a few details before we go back to Kagan. We have confirmation of one patient being treated. We believe that is the person with the bloodied leg in handcuffs being led away and taken via ambulance to a Boulder hospital. We believe that may be the suspect. No confirmation from police just yet. Also, just learning the ATF is now involved in the investigation. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms responding to Boulder now and helping Boulder police. Also, just minutes ago, getting a tweet from Senator John Hickenlooper saying, we're closely monitoring the ongoing situation in Boulder, grateful for all of our first responders on scene, and praying for the officers and individuals who are inside the grocery store. That tweet on the heels of one from Governor Polis, who calls Boulder home and has said the same thing.
Yeah, we have been hearing from multiple witnesses throughout the afternoon since we came on the air just before 3 o'clock. Our Kagan Harsha on the scene right now. Kagan, we understand you have another witness.
I do. I'm speaking here with Anna Haynes, who happens to live right across the street from this King Soopers, right up front. Anna, thanks for joining us. And I can't imagine what you saw and witnessed today. You actually saw this all unfold. Kind of describe what happened.
Yeah, so my roommate and I both heard like multiple shots, 10 to 15 shots maybe. She was in class, but I went outside to look. I thought it was maybe like a car engine failing or some shots going off or some fireworks going off. And I looked outside and I saw a man with a semi-automatic rifle shooting at people in the parking lot. I saw a dead body on the ground in the parking lot. I know he was dead because they took him away in a body bag a few minutes later when the police came, and he shot, I believe, at somebody going up the ramp to one of the doors of the King Soopers. He shot multiple times, and then he ran inside the King Soopers, and multiple people immediately started running out of the building after that.
How many victims could you see? How many people you believe were shot?
I only saw 2. I think he was mostly inside the building, but in the parking lot, I saw one body, and I think he shot one more person that I couldn't see from my vantage point, but based on people's reactions to the area, I think there was one more.
Do you have any reason to believe from what you saw or heard that there were multiple suspects? I know police were out here ordering another individual in the vehicle to get out of the vehicle at one point. Did you see anybody else that might have been involved?
No, I only saw one person. He, I believe, had a shirt on, like a jacket on, but I could be misremembering. But I only saw one person.
How about, and you heard how many shots, and kind of what was the reaction immediately after that? Were people running from the store, the parking lot? What did you witness?
Yeah, so there was, I mean, really probably like more than 10 shots before I looked outside, thinking that it could be something other than like a firework. And yeah, I saw people sprinting. I saw people getting into their cars and driving away. I saw a lot of people running across the street right to the front of our apartment. There was one woman who ran and started like kneeling on the ground, like crying, screaming. And that was really the point where I realized that I had just seen what I had seen, was when I saw her sort of mourning in front of our apartment.
So those two victims you saw, you talked one on the ramp going into the store, and where was that correct? And where was this other victim? And do you know anything about a man or a woman? Or
I believe the one, so there was one, I believe I didn't see directly, but going up the ramp, like on the bottom of the ramp. The second one that I saw was just like in the middle of the parking lot. I believe he was a man, and he was there for a while, like 10 minutes maybe, before they got him. So
what do you know about the suspect? Can you describe him for us? And I know we have some images of who we believe that suspect might be. Reports that he was wearing tactical gear at one point. Was he shouting? Was he saying anything that you could hear?
I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear him say anything. He did seem panicked. He was like shooting sort of like freely a little bit, and he seemed a little panicked. He was more heavy set. He was white. He, like I said, I thought he was wearing like a heavy jacket, but I could be just misremembering. But that's what I thought. Yeah.
And then we've seen the parade of employees and customers leave the store. I don't know if you've had, and they walked right by the sidewalk in front of us here. If you happen to get their reaction at all, and maybe how many people you've seen walk past here? Has it been dozens?
It's definitely been dozens. Yeah, maybe over 100 people have walked sort of through this area, and it's a very like quiet, sort of small area. So having so many people around is odd. And yeah, we've seen a lot of people. We saw some Starbucks employees from their aprons. We saw them leave. We've seen a lot of people being escorted out. A lot of them seemed to be injured. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw a few folks limping. I don't know if did you see anybody else without obvious injuries on them?
No obvious injuries. Just, yeah, like you said, like limping, hunching over. A lot of that, too, was I think they were trying to just shield from the area. But
and just last but not least, I'm so sorry you had to witness this and go through this. I mean, when you're watching this unfold, what is going through your head, having never seen anything like this, I'm sure?
I mean, I think it's sort of, my roommate and I both have sort of an adrenaline rush from it. But I think once we start really like learning more about it and processing what happened, I think that'll be hard for us to work through, and hard for just a lot of people in this area to work through. I think a lot of us have been really traumatized by what we've seen.
And probably shop at this grocery store all the time.
I mean, almost every day. I was thinking about going over earlier today to just get like Starbucks or something, and I'm the same with a lot of my friends who live around this area, and I'm so glad that I didn't and that none of my friends didn't. And yeah, we've been saying to each other, my roommate and I, that we are not going to go there for a while. We need to go somewhere else.
Well, stay safe. Again, I'm so sorry you went through this, and thanks so much for talking with us. I can't imagine what this has been like. And to give you guys a sense for what's happened out front here in the last few moments, definitely a much quieter scene. Just moments ago, we saw one of those big armored SWAT vehicles full of a lot of officers in tactical gear actually leave the scene. The presence of the law enforcement presence, while still heavy out here, has died down certainly from what we saw just a short time ago. The commotion has died down. This perimeter is still being pushed back to right where these apartments are. Again, we're directly across the street from the front of the store where you can see the shattered storefront windows. Most of the windows, big windows in front of this building, are gone at this moment. And a lot of witnesses still milling around out here, many of them from this apartment complex that, again, witnessed this just a short time ago earlier this afternoon.
Has to be such a horrific thing to witness. Kagan, we appreciate it. We know you're continuing to gather witness accounts for us. Our Vicente Arenas, also one of the first reporters on the scene. Vicente, who are you with?
I'm with someone who is coming up in the store just after it happened, but I just want to give you a bit of an update that is a bit encouraging, if there is anything encouraging at this moment. And we're watching now a bunch of the SWAT officers beginning to leave the scene, and they don't appear to be as urgent as they were earlier, so it really seems like things are tapering down a bit. So that's just a bit of an update from my vantage point from when we first got here. Now I have a CU student who is going to describe to us what he saw as he was driving up to the store. Walk me through what you saw again, please.
So, yeah, I was just walking around the corner, and then that's when I saw a ton of cop cars, ton of noises, and then I was just getting breakfast, and I heard these two loud bangs. And after a ton of commotion was over there, I saw the SWAT pull up, and then I saw this one guy getting detained outside. He got carried out, blood, shot, leg, was all bleedy, probably had a couple other injuries. But yeah, thank God everyone's okay, but scary sight for sure.
So tell me about the whole idea of the person that you saw that was bleeding. Can you describe that more to me, please?
Well, I guess it was, that's
just
the
tell
suspect.
Me what you saw, though.
So I saw him getting carried out of the King Super. He had a limp. He was definitely shot in the leg somewhere, covered in blood.
Who was carrying him? Did it appear to be officers?
Yeah, he wasn't being carried, more detained.
Okay.
But yeah.
And what were you thinking when you saw this happen?
You're a scumbag. I hate you if you did this. But
so if we can kind of keep those words down to just a minimum.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. But you're shaking as you were telling me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm scared. Thank God. It could have been me. It could have been you. Could have been my mom. Anybody.
You were driving up to get groceries, you said.
I was getting groceries. Yeah, I could have been in there 5 minutes earlier.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're okay, and thank you for your time. I know it's an emotional time, so we just try to keep those words to a minimum. I'm glad you're okay. Thank you for your time,
thank you.
Yeah, so that just gives you an idea of just kind of the emotions that people are feeling right now. So just kind of have to kind of walk them through it a little bit, because people are shaken up when something like this happens. So, but it seems to be calming down just a bit, Jeremy.
Yeah, I think we all tend to put ourselves in that situation just as that young man did. I was at King Soopers yesterday with my family, not that King Soopers, but we all go to the grocery store. And we all should be able to go to the grocery store without fear of something like this happening. Now, he did say, thank God everybody's okay, and sadly, we don't know that to be true. In fact, just the opposite. We heard moments ago from a young woman who was witness to all this. Vicente, thank you, and we'll get back to you in just a bit. We heard moments ago from a young woman who was witness to this, who says she's convinced that she saw a dead body being taken away from the scene there. Not confirmed by police, although we do await that information. And Dean Schiller, who was basically live streaming much of this on YouTube today, one of the witnesses, says he saw 3 lifeless victims not moving, face down, 2 in the parking lot, 1 inside the store. Now, again, this is information coming to us from witnesses, not confirmed by police, and we're awaiting that. But these are the most recent details we have received in the last few minutes from people who were there or came upon the scene shortly after this all unfolded, just around 2:30 this afternoon at the King Superstore on Table Mesa in South Boulder when this report of an active shooter first came in. I'm still struck by that eyewitness report from Brian Crucy. We heard from him early on. He was checking out at the grocery store midday on a Monday, not a very busy store, but he starts hearing these sounds that seem like fireworks, and then he sees a guy in the parking lot in tactical gear, dark hair and a beard, firing a gun that appeared to be an AR-15 style weapon. Windows shot out. Brian and others ran to the back of the store telling people to get to safety. They left through the loading dock and got to safety through the back of the store, ran to an office building down the street, and they are okay. But we don't know that everybody inside that store was okay. In fact, we fear quite the opposite.
Yeah, we certainly do. In fact, hearing from a witness just about 10 minutes ago that he did see 3 lifeless people, his words, that certainly made our heart sink. And in fact, we had Brian on the phone right after that witness account. And Brian said to us he couldn't believe it hearing that. He doesn't know, maybe he passed that scene, and just with the adrenaline pumping, he wanted to warn those that were shopping to get out as quickly as possible, confirming that, yes, there is somebody with a gun, having seen the man that he saw shooting at that AR-15 weapon. You have to wonder, too, Jeremy, just piecing together several of these different witness accounts that we've heard. It sounds like it started in the parking lot, and then the man made his way into the store. Michael Konopasek right now with yet another witness account. Michael.
Today, I'm joined with this man right here named Dan Winters. Now, he's looking for his wife, and this is another story to this massive story that we are covering, is people not knowing exactly where their loved ones are. So you said that your wife was shopping in the area, and you're trying to contact her.
Yeah, she left the house. She said she was going to do some shopping, but she didn't say where. And we lived where she would have come right by, King Super. We only lived 4 or 5 blocks away from here.
Does she have a cell phone that you've been trying?
We have a cell phone that's used for emergencies, but it's sitting at home.
I hear you. How are you doing emotionally? I hope that you're able to contact her soon. What's her name?
Sheila.
Sheila Winters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the odds are overwhelming that she's fine.
Okay.
She probably didn't even go to King Super, but she has a few times sort of snuck somewhere that I wouldn't be happy with. So.
And Dan, you were saying, though, that you didn't see anything. This is you're just trying to make sure your wife is okay.
Yes, that's right. I didn't see anything.
Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate you. So there you go. And you can just imagine with how many people that were in the King Supers, which I'm looking at right now, we're just across the street, how many people were in there. In fact, let's go ahead and just take the camera and just show people, get it off me, and show what's going on here. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. You can just imagine how many more Dans there are out there. Wondering, if everyone's okay. In this case, of course, she didn't have a cell phone, but he seems pretty optimistic. Back to you guys.
Yeah. All right, Connor, thank you. We are getting a bit of welcome news here, too. We're hearing from police traffic that, they had interest in a vehicle in the parking lot. It turns out maybe there was not a suspect in there, but a large dog in the back. That, according to some police traffic. Haven't confirmed that, but we believe that to be the case, and if so, that is certainly welcome news, because there were fears that there might have been a suspect still in the parking lot long after all of this went. Also hearing from Representative Jonah Goose, who represents Boulder, praying for the entire Boulder community and all of the first responders and law enforcement responding to this terrible incident. We're hearing a lot of people weigh in, from the governor to the senator to the representative tonight. Our Ashley Michaels on the scene there. And Ashley, last we spoke to you, you were being sort of rushed away by officers as they widen that perimeter. Can you confirm what I just reported there about the dog in the car? Do you know?
So, Jeremy, it's really interesting that you just said that. I believe I actually spoke to the owner of that dog about 30 minutes ago. She was inside the store, she says, with her son at the self-checkout line when the shooter came into the store and started firing rounds of his gun. She was very concerned about her dog that was still in the parking lot, because she was worried that shots had been fired in the parking lot as well. So we do believe that the owner of that dog is a person who was inside that store shopping and not related to the shooter at this point. Now, I do want to show you what's going on out here live right now. Within the last, I'd say 60 seconds, about a dozen or more Denver police officers just showed up out here to help. They're just one of a number of agencies. We've seen, in addition to Jefferson County, we've seen Longmont Police out here, a lot of different agencies coming to help, because this is such a big, ongoing, developing situation. And, I do want to say as well, since the last time you guys checked in with me, it seems a lot more calm out here. Obviously, in that moment that I last spoke with you guys, that's when we were being rushed back. That was a very, very hectic, tense, and I have to admit, scary moment. When you hear the things that police were saying and telling everybody to get back, a lot more calm at this moment, and we hope that's the case going forward. We'll update you just as soon as we learn more. Jeremy and Aristea.
Yeah, such a frenetic scene when you were talking earlier, Ashley. It's certainly good to see that things have calmed down a bit. And we know it's just before 5 o'clock when a lot of you are tuning in, so we're going to give you a recap here as we take some scene video. Several different police departments and emergency personnel on the scene of what was an active shooter situation. As Ashley and several of our other reporters have detailed, things do seem to have calmed. We are awaiting official report. This is at the King Supers at 3600 Table Mesa Drive. I've been hearing from several different witnesses on scene today, saying that one of them saying that they saw several lifeless bodies on the ground. Again, still working to confirm that. Also unconfirmed reports that officers may have been involved and possibly shot. This is all things we're working to confirm. We did confirm with one of the area hospitals that one person has been transported to the hospital. Their condition unknown at this point, but hoping to get official word here momentarily.
We have been on the air with this live continuous breaking news coverage since just after 2 o'clock this afternoon, and our coverage continues right now in the free Fox 31 News app. We know many of you have been joining us live on Channel 2 News at 4 p.m. So we ask that you turn over to our news partners, Fox 31. For those who are watching currently on Fox 31, stay right where you are. Again, our continuous breaking news live coverage continues of this active shooter at the King Soopers on Table Mesa in Boulder. Stay right here. Breaking news coverage continues now. And again, this is breaking news coverage at 5 p.m. here on Fox 31 News of an active shooter unfolding this afternoon at the King Superstore on Table Mesa Boulevard on the south side of Boulder. Witnesses telling us that they saw a man in the parking lot with a gun in tactical gear firing shots. And earlier this afternoon, we saw an arrest. We'll show you the video of that. A man being led out of the King Superstore there on Table Mesa in handcuffs. He was bloodied on his lower right leg, wearing no shirt, no pants, no shoes. It appears he might have been in his underwear. And you'll see him moments from now in this video that's right there on the right side of your screen. There are SWAT officers leading what we believe to be a customer or employee out of the store, one of many led to safety this afternoon. But again, it appears one person in custody and taken to the hospital. That person right there in the middle of your screen. This unfolded live just a short time ago here on Fox 31 as we watched this person being led away. Again, he's handcuffed. That is a police officer to his left and a firefighter, a first responder to his right, a SWAT officer behind him there. If you see closely when we zoom in here, his leg is bloody and he is hobbling a bit. We don't know if he was shot or how he was injured, but we believe this may be a suspect after this active shooting situation at the King Soopers in Boulder today.
Yeah, police have not yet given any information regarding the number of victims or any information regarding this person we do, at least at this point, believe to be a suspect. We do know several of the reporters we have on scene, and we have 5 right now on scene, have said that they have seen the most law enforcement agencies they've ever seen on a scene. We've also gotten several different witness accounts, all corroborating the same story, that there was a man in tactical gear loaded with assault-style weapon going from the parking lot where he was firing several rounds, making his way into the King Soopers. And one witness in particular that we talked to early on saying he actually ran into the store to alert the shoppers that they needed to take shelter or get out and to do it quickly. Our Kagan Harshaw, one of the first reporters on the scene. Kagan, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Araceli, and I'm right across the store again where there's an apartment complex here where we've spoken with several witnesses who saw this unfold, and one of those witnesses is Mark Naughton. Mark, thanks for speaking with us. I know you're nervous to talk to us here, but kind of explain, you were inside your apartment, and I can't imagine what this was like, and probably hard to believe what you were seeing, but walk us through what you saw this afternoon.
Yeah, I heard a loud bang. I thought at first it was like a car crash, and then there was like a series. I was in my kitchen, and there was a series of like 7 more. It sounded like loud fireworks, like not firecrackers, but like really loud fireworks. And that's when I ran to my window overlooking the parking lot, and I saw the guy moving from right to left across the main driveway, and that's when he shot one of the people. And looked like he had a shortish assault rifle, and he was holding it like this and just like moving kind of quickly through the parking lot. And then I went to grab my phone, and that's when I lost sight of him, and I didn't know where he went at that point.
Sure, you said those were scary moments because you didn't know which direction you'd take it off. I know your fear was maybe he'd cross the street trying to get away toward your place.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was like coming across the street towards us or which direction he was in. So I like shut off all my lights and just kind of hunkered down for a bit.
Was everybody fleeing the scene? Did anybody run to the aid of that victim? You believe it was a man in the parking lot?
Yeah, it looked like a man that he shot, and it was kind of bizarre. There was some people were fleeing, but some people were still milling about like it was normal. And then I saw a lady. She pulled in the main entrance, and she saw the guy laying there in the middle of the driveway, and she got out and she started to walk towards him, and then I can't remember what she did next. I think she went back to her car, but people were still like pulling into the parking lot like it was a normal day.
And you didn't see the suspect again. Did you see any other victims, or do you know where any idea where the suspect did take off?
I didn't see. I guess he went into the store, but I didn't see that part. It all happened really kind of fast.
And what's going through your head when you're watching all this unfold right across the street? You said you've been in the store just before this?
Yeah, I was in there like about 10 minutes before that. I just walked across and grabbed some stuff, and yeah, if I'd been like 5 minutes later, I could have been in there. It's really scary.
Well, Mark, I appreciate it. I'm glad you're safe. And just to give you, again, a sense where we are right outside the front of the store across the street. In the last few moments, we've seen a lot more police vehicles arrive. We talked about how the scene had kind of died down from a law enforcement perspective. Well, we have seen a lot of those vehicles return and kind of line up on the street in between us here in this apartment complex in the store. Again, that was Mark Naughton, who lives right across the street, was inside the store just 5 minutes before all this happened this afternoon. We spoke to another witness from this complex who saw at least 2 victims, she believed, out here in this parking lot today. A scary scene unfolding right outside people's homes where there were a lot of shoppers. Again, the store not as busy as it could have been today, but certainly several people inside this building.
There were, Kagan, thank you, both of your witnesses echoing what another witness, Dean Schiller, told us. He was live streaming on YouTube as events unfolded this afternoon. He says he saw 3 lifeless bodies, not moving, face down, 2 of them in the parking lot, 1 inside the store. And this scene from earlier today, devastatingly familiar to those of us here in Colorado who've been a while and have covered more than one active shooting situation. We see people being comforted on the sidewalk just outside the store. We believe these to be customers, employees, perhaps a pharmacy tech who were inside the store when all of this happened, them crying, shedding tears over what they saw and how they had to escape it. Here they are being draped in blankets to try and keep them warm as they waited to give their account of what happened. We did just get a tweet from the union representing King Soopers workers. They say Local 7 closely monitoring the unfolding events at the store there, number 33 in Boulder. We're praying all the grocery workers and shoppers today, including our 32 members that work at this store, are safe and unharmed. It has been, as we know, a devastating 12 months, not just for the first responders you see on scene here, but also for grocery store workers. There are members of this very union, at least 3 of them, who died because of COVID. They're on the front line serving people in the middle of this pandemic, and then to think that maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel as vaccines are being administered and maybe the real harm is out of the way for people who work in places like this comes along something like what we saw today in Boulder.
Yeah, certainly not what we want to see. And Jeremy, you said it, kind of an idyllic. Excuse us, we're hearing from our producer right now who says that our Michael Konopasek might have another witness. We're trying to bring you all the new information as soon as it does become available, as we have not yet heard official word from police at this point. Michael, anything new you can tell us?
Yeah, well, we have been talking to a lot of witnesses, people who are inside the store. A lot of them are outside of the store, just haven't gone home yet. You know, they're just left in shock and curious to see what else might be going on. But let's just go ahead and recap what I know from talking to witnesses. 2 witnesses that we did speak to who were in the store together heard a series of gunshots, and we have been hearing that throughout all the witnesses. As you mentioned, Araceli, all the witness accounts seem to be lining up in perfect order. One of them said that she estimated around 10 people injured is what she estimated. We heard another witness talk about 3 people dead that he saw with his own eyes. And then, of course, we saw that Skyfox video from earlier, right, of somebody in handcuffs walking with police to the ambulance. We've been showing that over and over again. Again, the only person that we have seen in handcuffs with a bloody leg. Again, as you just mentioned, what is missing from all of this right now, and understandably so because they're so busy, is official confirmation of the details that we are learning from eyewitnesses, but official confirmation from police. And so we imagine that there will be undoubtedly some sort of a police press conference at some point, but they are still putting these pieces together and priorities. They have their priorities in order, of course, and focusing on this investigation. And so once they are available to give the media more updated information, we, of course, will have that for you. As we mentioned, we have multiple crews here, and so we'll have that for you. But right now, it is not as frantic as it was earlier, which is perhaps maybe some good news, if there is any, that we can see, is that it seems like they have things under control now. Back to you.
Hey, Connor, real quickly, you were the one talking to Mr. Winters earlier, right, whose wife had not come back from the store yet? Was that you?
Yes, Jeremy.
Have we had any update on Sheila? Do we know anything yet?
No, and Mr. Winters was right next to me, and he's still in the general area, but we don't have an update just yet. He does seem pretty optimistic. He doesn't believe that his wife was at the grocery store, but Jeremy, I can relate to this with my own grandma. You know.
Quick update real quickly. FBI now chiming in saying at the request of the Boulder Police Department, the FBI Denver personnel are assisting with the investigation into this active shooter situation at the King Superstore on Table Mesa in Boulder. So now we know the FBI, the ATF, Boulder Police, the County Sheriff's Department, law enforcement agencies from all up and down the metro area now assisting in this massive response to this active shooter this afternoon at the King Superstore.
Yeah, really amazing too, Jeremy. We've had so many of our veteran reporters today talk about how this is the largest law enforcement officials' response they've ever seen since they started reporting. Really obviously speaks to how serious this situation is and continues to be as we do try to gather information. We know this from the Boulder Community Health that one patient has been treated. The situation, they say, is still unclear. No update on conditions there at this point. We did see 3 air ambulances land earlier. That's what we were able to count from our aerial view, our Skyfox view. And as we said, if we can get that video again for those just joining us, we know police did lead someone out in handcuffs. This was out of the store earlier today. That person did not have a shirt or pants, and it looked like they had a bloodied leg of sorts. They put them into an ambulance. Several of the witnesses at this point, we've asked any estimation as to how many people might have been injured there on the shooting that started just before 3 p.m. A couple of them estimating right around 10 people in total. And I heard certainly saying about 30 minutes ago when one man said he did see 3 lifeless bodies. Again, working to confirm all of this. As you can imagine, a very frenetic scene. A lot of people saying it's hard to recount when your adrenaline is pumping at the degree it was pumping for these people. Still waiting for the official word as far as information regarding a number of victims or information regarding that man that we do think could have been the suspect. Again, interesting to note, the man we saw in that video we're working to get for you was the same, met the description that several of the witnesses told us earlier. They saw a man who had a beard, dark hair, in full tactical gear, shooting an AR-15 weapon in the parking lot and then looking as if he was moving inside of the store. You can see from some of this video that we're racking for you right now, police and SWAT officers. And then there is actually this video, there it is, of the gentleman in the suspect with, you can see that right leg appears to be very bloody. That's the man we're talking about that looked to be matching the description that several of the witnesses had given to us prior.
Yeah, you know, you always wonder how many of these details you'll be able to capture if, God forbid, you find yourself in this situation. We talked to one witness, Brian Crucy, early on, who had a stunning amount of knowledge of what he saw in just a few seconds. He was checking out, as we said, thought he heard fireworks, looked out in the parking lot, saw a guy in tactical gear firing what looked like an AR-15 style weapon. We don't know if that's the person you're seeing on the right side of your screen right now, but it certainly, as Aristeo said, matches a bit of the description. He ran inside, told customers and employees about the shooting. Brian, I'm talking about now. He told others to get to the back of the store. They got out through the loading dock, ran to a fire station and then down the street to an Edward Jones office where they sought safety and have been for most of the afternoon, like several witnesses, getting out of the building safely. But the big question tonight remains, how many did not get out of that building safely? And there is a real lack of confirmed information right now from Boulder Police. We know they're busy. They are continuing to investigate. They promise an update soon as they can. We understand that an emergency notification just went out by Boulder Police in the area near 17th and Grove. They're telling people to shelter in place while they respond to the report of an armed, dangerous individual near 17th and Grove. Do we have that shot, even though I know Courtney's not dialed in yet? Can we take that shot, Lauren? If so, let me know. But we do have a reporter near that scene again, here it is right here. And we should probably back off. If they could zoom out a bit, we don't want to give away their tactical plan. But we do know that the emergency notification just went out. Boulder Police asking people near 17th and Grove to shelter in place while they respond to the report of an armed, dangerous individual. Let's just get a shot of a cop car or something if we can, or just a generic shot of that neighborhood. We can see police gathered nearby, and they do have people sort of pushed back a bit. Apologies. We're trying to do the right thing here and certainly not give away police tactical information. But again, that was the scene from 17th and Grove, where an emergency notification just went out. Boulder Police asking people near that area to shelter in place while they respond to the report of an armed, dangerous individual. The police department is investigating to determine if it's related to the King Soopers shooting.
Yeah, we know there's so many agencies on the scene. FBI Denver, at the request of the Boulder Police Department, assisting with the investigation. It does look like that scene is not far, so a bit reassuring to know that there are so many law enforcement officials that are in the area that can respond quickly. Amazing, though, Jeremy. Really, we've covered several of these in the past 8 years that we've worked together. This situation really seems to be developing. It didn't seem to be one that has wrapped quickly. I mean, we came on the air just before 3 o'clock, and it just continues to develop as the minutes go on. Businesses put on lockdown. Then they had reports potentially of a second person that did turn out to be unfabricated inside of a car. But now this scene they're looking into.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's what's so striking, Air We talked about it. We have reporters here who sadly have covered several of these, dating back to Columbine, and then you have the STEM school, and you have the Aurora Theater shooting, and there have been no shortage of these sorts of situations in our state. Yet, having covered all of these, some of our reporters say that what we saw unfold here in Boulder today was the most frantic, urgent sort of situation they'd seen. Yet that's really saying something. And I still think it's sort of stunning to see, you know, this scene from Boulder just a minute ago. You saw that iconic backdrop of the flat tops. Yeah,
flat irons.
Flat irons. My apologies.
Yep.
We have flat tops over in Glenwood Springs. Got it wrong. But you saw the flat irons there off in the distance on this snowy spring day. And you see this large police presence with these officers from all over the place. And I don't equate this sort of scene with a place like Boulder. I think most of us don't. These things can happen everywhere, and we've certainly seen that here in Colorado. We do
have our Courtney Fromm. I'll take it, Jeremy. Courtney Fromm available right now on that scene we just brought to you, where police are asking the residents to be on lockdown. Courtney, what can you tell us?
It's a very active scene here. It's actually kind of quiet. They had police push us back a little bit here on 17th. I'm going to give you a look at what's going on. You can see there's a condo complex right here behind me and several SWAT members. I know we're not going to zoom in too much just to be careful and safe, but several SWAT members, about 20 arrived probably about 5 to 10 minutes ago. They've been banging on the door, asking whoever's inside to come out. Now, they did have 2 individuals, older looking individuals, brought out and taken over with SWAT further down 17th. But as of right now, what we know, the details of what we're seeing is that 17th is blocked off from Arapahoe Avenue up to Canyon Street all the way here. And we are just right next to Boulder High School as well. There's a lot of people out here. It looks like they're just starting. I don't know if you can see that over there, but potentially taping off an area, but very, very active, but not a lot of information as of right now.
All right, Courtney, thank you so much. Again, Courtney there at 17th and Grove, where just minutes ago, an emergency notification went out from Boulder Police asking people near this neighborhood, 17th and Grove, to shelter in place while they responded to the report of an armed, dangerous individual. The police department investigating to determine if it's related to the King Soopers shooting. Again, this is 17th and Grove there in Boulder. We're just getting word of a news conference about a half hour from now at 5:45. It'll be at the Whole Foods grocery store just up the street there from this one off Table Mesa, where we hope to learn more details, because again, the only detail that we have really from Boulder Police at this point was that first tweet that went out earlier this afternoon saying that there had been an active shooting situation there at the King Soopers on Table Mesa.
And we know so many of you, some of you I've heard from via text message, Boulder residents that are watching us right now. Please know our hearts and our prayers are with you. They are heavy as we deliver and are the bearers of this terrible news with you today, especially as we continue to deliver news that has unended questions at this point, like that scene we just showed you at 17th and Grove. We're working to try to get the answers as quickly as they do become available. And we want to tell you, you again are our eyes and our ears So much of what we've been able to report to you thus far has been because you have written into us. tips@kdvr.com is where you can email us if you have any information. Were you a witness? Were you inside the King Soopers? Are you looking for your loved one, like that sweet man that Michael Konopasek talked to you earlier, waiting for his wife Sheila to get in touch with him? Any information that you can tell us to help color this story. We depend on the community so much to be able to provide up-to-the-date information. So certainly email us. tips@kdvr.com is the place. Our entire newsroom diligently working right now to make phone calls. We know that several of the businesses are on lockdown. If we can get some information, too, from those making calls in the newsroom to see if those businesses are now allowed to go home. Are they allowed to leave the area? Have police given the green light on that? Waiting to hear that, too.
By my count, we have 7 reporters on the scene. Our newsroom is filled with people who've been monitoring police radio traffic, watching videos on social media, taking phone calls from some of you witnesses. Thank you, as Aristea said, for all of your help as we gather news on this story. I think, if we can, Lauren, can we go to Vicente? He is at the Whole Foods, where we expect to hear from police just moments from now. Let's listen to Vicente. What do we know about this news conference? Any idea what we're going to learn here in about a half hour, Vicente?
Well, it's probably going to be the first official confirmation of any kind of news that the police department is releasing so far. This Whole Foods the grocery store is right behind the actual grocery store, the King Soopers, where it happened. And if you look here, there are a couple of police officers here. The area is cordoned off, and there's probably about 20 or 30 police cars lined up in the area. But certainly this is what we have been waiting for for some time now, for some sort of official information. That news conference coming up at 5:45 to learn more about what happened. So they're staging us now. And this is where we'll get that first official confirmation of what happened this afternoon. But that's what I can tell you what's happened here so far. But just again, talking to several witnesses today, people who were inside the store, they heard the gunshots, and we'll be getting that information shortly coming up at 5:45. Jeremy, Aristea.
All right, Vicente, thank you.
Right.
As reporters gathered there at the Whole Foods up the street from the King Soopers, where the shooting unfolded earlier today, back live to that scene of the King Soopers. Again, much less frantic than we saw a couple of hours ago, but it is a stunning sight when you see it from a different angle and you see what appears to be the front windows of the store shot out after this active shooter earlier today at the King Soopers on Table Mesa. Early eyewitness reports of a guy in tactical gear in the parking lot firing shots, and then later reports from witnesses of 3 lifeless people not moving, face down, 2 of them in the parking lot, 1 inside the store.
And Jeremy, Governor Jared Polis just releasing this statement within minutes ago on the Boulder shooting, saying, quote, "My heart is breaking as we watch this unspeakable event unfold in our Boulder community. We're making every public safety resource available to assist the Boulder County Sheriff's Department as they work to secure the store. I'm incredibly grateful to the brave men and women who have responded to the scene to help the victims of this senseless tragedy. This is very much an active situation. We continue to monitor it closely. We ask for your patience as law enforcement works tirelessly to secure the site. Right now, the biggest priority is to let law enforcement in the city of Boulder do their work to ensure the safety of those involved." Our Kagan Harsha on the scene right now. Kagan, you've been there from the very beginning, from before that person we believe to potentially be the suspect, the one we saw officers take out, apprehended. Describe to us the feel. Do things seem to have calmed? Does it seem like they have a handle on this situation? What are you hearing about potential developments at the 17th and Grove scene?
Yeah, it's definitely much calmer out here than it was when we first arrived. When we first got here, we heard law enforcement officers, these SWAT teams kind of shouting in the parking lot, at one point approaching one of these vehicles in here, telling the person inside to get out. That was over a loudspeaker. Meantime, we were seeing multiple employees of this store being escorted, kind of rushed along the street here. They were all ducking behind vehicles to safety. We also saw customers walking out with hands on their head. We're seeing a fire truck pull up at the moment right now with a police car here, but still a heavy law enforcement presence, dozens upon dozens of flashing lights. You can see here police vehicles. We're trying not to show you tactical positions, but just to give you a sense of the scope of this, I mean, it's one police vehicle after another lined up throughout this entire block right now. And what I also want to show you, if this fire truck doesn't block our view here, is we're now getting a look inside the store. You can see kind of just the checkout aisles here, just empty, nobody obviously there. We're told that the front of the windows that were knocked out here, that wasn't from gunshots, that was from the SWAT teams trying to gain entry to the building. So they knocked those out from what witnesses are telling us. But you can see into this store where we've heard from witnesses frantic moments. We talked to a witness earlier when we first got on scene talking about everybody hitting the floor, running for cover. And other witnesses describing a completely different scene out in the parking lot where folks didn't know what was going on. There's an active shooter out here firing a weapon, and people were still pulling into the parking lot and getting out of their cars nonchalantly, not realizing the danger they were in at that moment. We also talked to Mark, who you just heard from a short time ago when we were here. He lives right across the street. He also, after I got to talk with him on air there, he told me that his neighbors right below him actually happened to work over here at the King Soopers in the sushi department. He hasn't been able to talk to them. He's hoping that they're okay. And if you have a loved one who's an employee at the store, we do want to point out most of them were rushed to safety in vehicles and bussed out of here. So they were interviewing, talking to police. There may be a delay in getting to their loved ones because I know police were trying to conduct interviews with a lot of these workers as they were rushing them from the scene and into safety, along with a lot of these customers. Again, all of them walking out of the store with their hands on their heads. I think at that point, law enforcement just trying to make sure that there were no other suspects involved, and we're still kind of awaiting word on, this law enforcement presence here. And I think that's the big talk of all these neighbors is why we're seeing so many of these officers still out here at several hours later. What is still a very active scene, guys.
Yeah, I can't imagine what is going through the minds of those people who haven't heard from their loved one who may have gone to the store earlier today, although sadly that is a feeling that a lot of Colorado families can relate to based on our past experience. But we do know that there are reports of 3 people down earlier. This from Dean Schiller, an eyewitness, he says, and he YouTube live streamed a video showing 3 people lifeless, not moving, face down, 2 of them in the parking lot, 1 inside the store, just after this all unfolded a little while after 2 o'clock this afternoon at the King Soopers on Table Mesa there in Boulder.
Yeah, interesting, too. That was the first that I had heard so far, Jeremy, from any of our reporters about the fact that they actually bussed several of these King Soopers employees out to a safe location. I'm wondering if we can get the name of that location so we can talk to some of those employees and potentially bring them on air. If you are one of the loved ones sitting at home watching us, awaiting word, perhaps we can help be the bridge there. So if our news team can work on that, that would be great. But interesting, a lot of them probably didn't have access to their cell phone. You have to think when they were being ushered out, they heard the gunshots, they took shelter, SWAT teams came, told them to put their hands above their head, escorted them out. This probably all happened relatively quickly, and they've been unable to contact their loved ones. So we will work hard to get information regarding that.
And as all of this unfolds at the King Soopers there on Table Mesa, not far away, another scene, 17th and Grove, where Boulder police sent out an emergency notification to people asking those who live nearby this residence here at 17th and Grove to shelter in place while they responded to the report of an armed, dangerous individual. Police department investigating to determine if it was related to the King Soopers shooting. You can see they've roped off a big section of that street near 17th and Grove. They've pushed back reporters, neighbors, and bystanders to keep them away. And we did see SWAT officers near the front entrance to one of those townhomes not too long ago. There appears to be a neighbor checking out the scene right now. But again, this 17th and Grove, where emergency notifications just went out moments ago to shelter in place as police investigate this scene and try to figure out if it is at all related to what happened at King Soopers.
Yeah, and we, again, are awaiting a press conference for those of you who are almost to 5:30 here who are just joining us, 5:45 at the Whole Foods, where we will hear for the first time any word from authorities who, as we've said multiple times, have clearly been very preoccupied here trying to apprehend the suspect or potentially suspects that were involved. And if you are just joining us right now, we want to let you know we did hear from Boulder Community Health with 1 confirmed patient. That's the only confirmation we've gotten. We have no report on the situation or the condition of that suspect. We know 3 air ambulances did land nearby, and we did see earlier police leading someone in handcuffs. That was the only person we saw led out of the store with handcuffs, at least from our aerial view. That person without a shirt or pants, very peculiar, with what looked like a bloodied leg, put them into the ambulance. We also talked to several different witnesses who said that they saw, unfortunately, up to 3 life lifeless people that were inside of King Soopers. Even talking to one man, if you're just joining us, who actually was one of the first. Here's that video, too, by the way, that we're detailing for you. Talking to one man who was one of the first, we believe, to be on the scene, who said that he actually ran into the King Soopers, just unbelievable, and started screaming with his mask on to all of the shoppers, alerting them quickly, telling them to flee or get down, that there was a man with an AR-15 rifle shooting rapid fire. One witness estimating 10 people in total injured. That shooting reported just before 3 p.m. We got on the air just minutes after with very limited information. Again, still waiting the official confirmation regarding the number of victims or the number of suspects or suspect apprehension.
Well, and we have to say that, candidly, it's a bit discouraging to see that we know that 3 air ambulances landed near the scene and they have not taken off, and they have not transported any victims from this hospital as far as we know. Yeah. In fact, one confirmed that they had not transported anybody. The only person we know of that's been treated is, we believe, this person that you're seeing right now on the right side of your screen, which may well be the shooter. We don't know, but you know, logic would tell you this is a person in handcuffs and that bloodied leg, and he was taken to Boulder Community Health earlier. And they're now saying that they believe he is the only person that they will receive today from the King Soopers shooting. That is from Mitchell Byers at the Daily Camera up in Boulder. So, again, on one hand, you'd like to think that perhaps this is the only casualty, but based on eyewitness reports, we just don't believe that to be the case, and we're waiting for confirmation from police in about 15 or 20 minutes now to get some more details about that.
Yeah, one of the things, too, so many of our reporters have spoke to is the dozens of emergency response vehicles that have just been lining the streets around this King Soopers as police responding to this active shooter situation. They said that Greg Nieto, who's been a veteran reporter for us for 25 years, just really stuck out to me. Jeremy earlier said, this is the biggest police presence that I have ever seen. What continues to be a developing situation as well. Our Nicole Fierro is one of the reporters on scene who's talked to several different witnesses today. Nicole, any other color you can give us from any of those witnesses about what potentially could have happened inside that building around 3 o'clock?
Yeah, what we're seeing right now is police presence starting to leave. We've seen several ordinary cars also come out of here, assuming those were people stuck in the parking lot. Now, we also are seeing some police come back and forth. We don't want to show their location for safety reasons, but certainly eerily quiet here at the moment. Everyone just wondering when we're going to get an update, what's going on, if their loved ones were in there, are they okay? Just, you can't imagine what local people are coming and feeling right now. Every person that we spoke to that was either in the parking lot or that was nearby, they said this is the local pharmacy everyone goes to. This is the grocery store. Everyone knows someone. Everyone knows an employee there. So everyone's just so heartbroken and upset that this happened. We heard it live earlier. I was interviewing a man who said he saw 3 people lifeless laying there, heard all of the gunshots. Now we're seeing some regular cars start to come out. I think this looks like a family here. I'll probably try to talk to them if possible. Let's see as they come out. Hey, excuse me? Were you in there? Oh, you're all right?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, thanks so much. Yeah, so we are seeing some cars come out. They said they were not in King Soopers and they're fine. This elderly woman and her daughter over there leaving now. So cars are being able to leave here. And as you can see, not as much as a presence over here. Seems that some of the crews are leaving right now, but as soon as we get any update, we do know that we're going to get that 5:45 press conference. That's where we'll really hear a lot, and so many people want to know, community members, everyone here. I definitely have seen, though, about 5 police cars leave here all within the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, encouraging indeed. It says that perhaps the thing has cleared, the scene has cleared. We got that information earlier from police, too, that they had cleared the store, so that's good news. As you know, we've been hearing from witnesses throughout the afternoon, several of them earlier giving us very vivid eyewitness accounts. Let's hear some of that.
I saw a man with a semi-automatic rifle shooting at people in the parking lot. I saw a dead body on the ground in the parking lot. I know he was dead because they took him away in a body bag a few minutes later when the police came.
I heard gunshots going off. It sounded like a heavy caliber type, maybe a shotgun. And so I have a live stream, so I fired up immediately. And I never saw anyone, but I saw some victims on the ground as I came around the corner.
And that last witness there, Aristeia, Dean Schiller, who was, as he said, YouTube live streaming much of what unfolded outside the parking lot. Others in our newsroom who've seen that YouTube video confirm what he described there, and that was the report of 3 lifeless bodies there, face down, 2 in the parking lot, 1 inside the store. And those are the harrowing details that we hope to learn more about in the next 15 minutes and pray that they're not true.
Certainly can't reemphasize that enough. There's that picture you were talking about, Jeremy, of those gorgeous flat irons with the really eerie view of being illuminated by these sheriff's vehicles' lights. We also saw Kagan Harsher earlier show us front windows of the store that had been broken in. He said at one point police could be heard trying to communicate with the attacker via bullhorn. We also saw officers that were standing on the roof. This was just shortly after 3 o'clock. I'm just hearing that they were apparently lifted onto the roof in a cherry picker as they were trying to do their best to apprehend the suspect. Again, Boulder Police Department have not confirmed how many attackers involved, really whether anyone was arrested, though at this point the speculation leads us to believe that the one man with the bloodied leg that was in handcuffs was obviously arrested at this point. We do know that when police arrived, that suspect did open fire. We did hear that, but we're waiting to hear if there were any injuries to any police officers. You know, the hardest part about this is just, like you said, Jeremy, it's hearing these harrowing tales from the witnesses, all stories that seem to add up at this point, and just seeing the frenetic seeing the intense emotion as you see these victims that are covered in blankets just crying as they look to be reunited with their loved ones who seem to just have potentially escaped death, and yet not having that confirmation. Our minds are immediately going to hard places, so certainly stick with us for the next 10 minutes because we will get the official word.
The common theme in these mass shootings that we've seen here in Colorado is their relatability. They happen at places where we could see ourselves going. They happen at schools and movie theaters and grocery stores, and if not for the grace of God, it could have been us inside that store today. And so I think that's part of what makes this so heartbreaking, is the knowledge that this was just a random Monday afternoon at a grocery store in Boulder where nobody expected anything to happen, and then the unthinkable unfolds. The mind immediately goes to motive, and obviously we don't have an answer there, but you wonder based on past experience, is this a disgruntled employee? Was this, who knows what might have led up to all of this? I'm sure that police are trying to answer those very questions right now, and I guarantee we won't have answers to that just yet when they do give us a debrief 10 minutes from now, but hopefully they can answer some fundamental questions, like how many people were injured? Was that the suspect we saw being led away with the bloodied leg? And how on earth did this unfold without even more casualty? Was it because of people like we saw, Brian, who hurried in there and told everybody to get to the back of the store and then hurry out through the loading dock? Did that save lives today?
Yeah, you know, this is just a couple miles, too, from CU Boulder's campus, and I'm wondering, too, if our producers can make some phone calls and to see if there's been any lockdowns issued on the campus at this point. But obviously a lot of parents tuning in right now so concerned that this King Soopers is so close. Obviously, there could have been some students shopping inside, so we are working to get all of these details for you. We know that several of the employees and likely some of the shoppers were bused to a point of safety, and we apologize. We're losing, there we go, we got our picture back here. Our Michael Konopasek, one of the first reporters on scene right now. Michael, any new information for us?
Yeah, you know, our objective here is to try to piece together exactly what's happening, and we do that with witnesses until we get the official information from police, which we're still waiting on. And so Pedro lives very close to the King Soopers. In fact, he just lives in this building right over here. So I'm going to have Dan push off and show more of the scene while we talk to Pedro here. And Pedro, you were at home in your apartment, and tell me, you started hearing the shots, right?
Yes. So actually what happened was that I had just gotten out of the shower, and I was thinking about going to the grocery store, because that's the King Soopers that I go every time I go to the grocery store, to buy a deodorant, actually. Yeah. But I got too lazy to go, and I stayed home, and I was having lunch when I started hearing lots of sirens and shouting and shots. Yeah.
So, and the shots, you would have heard the shots before the sirens, of course, right?
I didn't hear anything before.
I see. So you perhaps we don't want to assume too much, but perhaps you didn't hear the initial shots. Is that how you understand it?
I would understand like that. Yes.
And you heard some shooting. You were aware of where the shots were coming from after you heard the sirens. Did you know was it evident that it was coming from law enforcement? You probably weren't looking at that point.
I mean, I was having lunch at that point, and everything was very confused because I was hearing lots of things at the same time. I was hearing the sirens and then that was the point when I heard a couple of shots.
Now, you also told me before we took this live shot here that you saw what we saw from Skyfox, which was a man in handcuffs and a bloody leg. But I just want to make sure that I want to see if you saw anything that perhaps we didn't see. And so tell us what you saw from the beginning to end when it comes to that man in handcuffs.
Yeah, so what happened was that at that point already I was texting my family, and they already knew, and they were texting me to see if I was okay. So I came outside to take a look at what was going on, and the same people that were over here, we were standing, and then I think that was the first time when somebody came out of the grocery store, and I remember I saw I think 2 police officers and the guy in handcuffs. I didn't see if he was in handcuffs, actually. I knew he had his arms in his back. I thought that he didn't have any handcuffs, actually, because what I thought was really weird is that he was shirtless. He had very short shorts, and he didn't have any shoes on.
But were you close enough to hear any words exchanged between law enforcement and that person who was in handcuffs?
No, not that, no. Later on, so what was interesting is that we thought that at that point that they had caught the shooter, but after that, the police officers were still in the area, and then they started saying surrender to somebody in the grocery store. So,
anything else that you witnessed that you think we should know?
I don't think so. I think that was all. Unfortunately, fortunately I wasn't there, but I could see this. Yeah. But
Thank you, Pedro. We appreciate it. Have a great day. Thank you for that information. So, and we've heard that before from other people as well. I was just about to go into the store and I saw the commotion, or in Pedro's case, he lives at these apartments just on the other side of the street from the King Soopers, and he just told us he was about to go in there, but he was feeling kind of lazy and decided he didn't want to go right at that moment, and thankfully that was the case for him. Just another eyewitness and what he heard and what he saw. As we continue to piece this all together. Back to you guys.
Yeah, many thanks, Connor. We're glad he's safe and well. We are just getting word from University of Colorado Boulder. They're canceling all classes from 5:30 onward tonight. So basically no night school at CU Boulder tonight in light of what's happened. Again, just a short distance from the CU Boulder campus here at this King Superstore. This is video from earlier as we saw employees. These look like pharmacy techs even. The very people administering COVID-19 shots to people being led to safety after the last danger they expected to face going to work today.
And Jeremy, I would just piggyback too, for parents and students alike, you can visit alerts.colorado.edu for updates as well. They will expand on the classes that are being canceled at 5:30 and later. So if you want all the latest information regarding your students, you can certainly receive it there. We're also working to send reporters right now to the area where some of those employees may have been bused to safety, likely some of those pharmacy technicians that you see right there. Still, it's amazing to see, Jeremy, how many of those law enforcement vehicles are still on scene right now. And really interesting, too, our Kagan Harsha kept talking about how the perimeter of the scene has only expanded here. So they're certainly doing a wide-scale investigation.
They are indeed. We are just minutes away from a planned press briefing at the nearby Whole Foods. It's about 3 miles away from the King Superstore. If we could take a live peek in there, reporters are getting ready, as is the police department there. We have learned just moments ago, as is usually the case, that this is running a bit late, so it probably will not happen at 5:45, but probably 5:55 instead. In fact, I think this woman is telling reporters that bit of information even as we speak. Nevertheless, we will bring you all of the new details as soon as we get them, and we are as eager to hear them as you are, because, again, the only confirmed information we have from Boulder Police is that there was an active shooter. That tweet coming out 2 hours ago, and that's the last sort of official word from Boulder Police on this incident, although, again, just a short time ago, we know there were reverse 911 calls in the area of 17th and Grove as they told people to avoid that area, get out of the area, shelter in place as they responded to the report of an armed, dangerous individual.
Jeremy, right as you say that, of course, too, Boulder Police tweeting this. Briefing to begin at 5:45. We will live tweet from the briefing. They say this is your chance to hear directly from first responders. Lots of speculation and some incorrect information that's out there on social media right now. So, as always, be a little wary as you are looking to social media for the latest news. As soon as we get any official reports, we will typically push that information via text alert if you are signed up on our free KDVR app, and certainly you will find it here on KDVR.com as well.
Yeah, we welcome their clarification because, again, we have not heard much at all, and obviously they've been quite busy dealing with this active scene. Again, they got some help from area law enforcement agencies, Denver Police on scene, lots of other local law enforcement agencies, the FBI, the ATF also on scene, as is our entire team of reporters, including Kagan Harsha, who's still outside that grocery store. Kagan, anybody still around there? Police still leaving the scene?
Can you say that again, Jeremy? You're cutting out
Just
there.
questioning the presence there still. We have seen law enforcement leave, but there's still a decent presence. Looked like that fire truck behind you may be getting ready to leave.
Yeah, there's an officer that just came over, was talking to these firefighters a moment ago. This is actually the only fire truck we've really seen on scene over the past couple of hours, mainly just police cars. And we'll kind of pan down and show you the big row of law enforcement presence out here. Again, not giving away tactical operations, because it does seem like this is a much more relaxed scene than it was most of the afternoon. You can see officers that are close to me just kind of hanging out, standing out here right now, which is something we didn't see earlier. We saw a lot of officers around the building. At one point when we arrived on scene, there was actually a SWAT, armed SWAT team members on top of the roof of this King Soopers. And that fire truck, as you mentioned, is driving away to a new location at this moment. So I'm able to hear a little bit better out here, but kind of a difficult scene for officers because they were quickly responding out here. Meantime, we've got lots of apartment complexes across the street, a residential area, and we had a lot of folks who were walking outside to see what was going on. And this was just moments after we had this the shots fired out here. I think a lot of folks heard those shots. They came outside to see what was happening, and because a lot of people pulling into the parking lot didn't know what was going on, there wasn't a lot of instant reaction, commotion. It took people some time to process what was happening. Again, you can see the front windows to the building shattered, knocked out. Again, that was with the SWAT team trying to gain access earlier today. I don't know if we've gotten it on air yet, but a video where you can actually hear gunshots inside the store that was captured by somebody on a cell phone. And just chaos is what folks are describing out here as they were trying to run across the street to locations like where we're standing right now, not fully knowing what was going on, not knowing if there was a threat to nearby businesses. This Table Mesa shopping center has dozens of businesses. Right next door, there's a Snarf sandwich shop, which we know officers ran into. After the shooting happened, we're kind of zooming in on this area, but this is kind of there's a dry cleaners over there, an Asian restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, we believe, of some kind, liquor store. So this is definitely a very busy area. Typically at that time of day, people are starting to, think about getting home from work, and as the afternoon drags on, a lot more activity here. So the good news is this is a much quieter scene at this hour, but still dozens upon dozens of police vehicles, and should point out, when we drove up here from Denver, we were probably passed by at least 2 dozen of those police cars from the Denver area rushing to the scene this afternoon, guys.
Yeah, you have to commend those law enforcement agencies, too, for reacting as quickly as they did. Really unbelievable to see the response so quickly. Kagan, we thank you. Nicole Fierro also joining Kagan Harsha on the scene right now. Nicole, we understand you have a witness with you.
Yeah. We actually are speaking right now with the owner of a restaurant right in this complex, trying to decide if he should open at least for the end of the week, trying to understand what's going on. He was here, heard shots. Walk us through what you went through.
We were standing inside our restaurant and we saw a bunch of police pull up, and we knew it was really serious because they were running with machine guns, and so we pulled up a live stream of it. There was a guy that was live streaming the event from right over here,
And so once we realized how serious it is, I called our team that both places were closed today, so I called them and told them to get into the office, lock the doors, and stay shelter in place.
I mean, I'm sure you were extremely scared, nervous. This is what we hear, a community where you know everyone and know the people inside King Super.
We were almost just going to go over there and get lunch, so it's kind of crazy, but it's weird. You don't really know what to do because we don't practice for this.
You never would prepare.
Yeah. I mean, luckily I told our team upstairs to go into the office that had a window so they could jump out the window. That's kind of what you're trying to think of, like, in the moment. It's pretty insane.
You seem stunned.
Yeah, it's shocking. This is our neighborhood center. So, yeah, all of our employees live within a mile of here, and all of our community that comes in lives in these residential areas right behind this place. So you didn't think it would happen in Boulder, Colorado.
No, to see this amount of police presence, to know what's going on right now. They're going to, he like so many other people are wondering what's going on, how many, if any, lives were lost, and hopefully we are told they're going a little late, but we are going to have a press conference soon. So
yeah, we just sheltered some of the people from the grocery store and gave them some water and tea and coffee, and they're pretty in shock. And it's just horrible that we're still having to deal with these situations.
The people from the grocery store, I mean, what are they telling you?
They saw bodies. So there's a live stream that shows some bodies in the parking lot too. So it's pretty crazy. You think about what you would do. You don't do what you think you're supposed to do, because you kind of start watching for a minute, and when you really should have just locked the doors and hid.
It's that stunning, that panic and shock before you. Got a dub.
Everyone we know. I just hope everyone lived and that everybody gets out of this okay.
As soon as we get an update, I'll get your contact info and I'll let you know. Thank you so much, sir.
I'll just give you my card.
Okay, perfect. As you can imagine, so many people in this area just wondering what's going on. We are staying in touch. He said that he had several people sheltering from the grocery store who saw bodies themselves. They were watching on a live stream just in the same complex, so they ducked underneath chairs and tables to try to stay safe. Nothing anyone would imagine happening to them.
Well, you heard him say it. I didn't think it would happen in Boulder, Colorado. That's a sentence we heard uttered in Littleton and Aurora and in Highlands Ranch, too. I didn't think it would happen here, and yet it appears to have happened again. Getting word that there have been 4 medical helicopters at the scene, but we have not seen them leave the scene just yet, which is discouraging news. And again, 2 active scenes, not just the King Superstore, but also a neighborhood, 17th and Grove, where police have surrounded a residence and where our Courtney Fromm is live right now. Courtney.
Jeremy, it's still a very fluid scene here. A lot of people kind of standing around watching what's going on, including us. Now, we did see SWAT officers. We're going to stay on a wide shot, but we did see SWAT officers earlier take out several individuals from this condo complex, obviously not from the main door that they're focused on. It may have been other residents who lived in the building, I imagine, just evacuating them out of here. Now, they were knocking on the door earlier, asking whoever's inside to come outside, but they do have their shields up. There's been some other gear that has been brought in possibly to breach the door. We're just kind of standing by. They have put up some tape here on 17th and Grove to kind of keep people back. Like I mentioned, there are a lot of people out here kind of watching as this all unfolds. But as of right now, we have no details on who the individual is inside of this condo complex here on 17th and Grove.
Yeah, and police, Courtney, aren't saying at this point, too, if this is related at all in any way. Obviously, you're not hearing any official sound from them at this point.
Yeah, we have not heard anything yet if this is related or not. We do see the road is completely blocked off now for several streets beyond 17th and Grove in both directions. A lot of SWAT officers and Boulder police in this area, but no connections yet that we know of.
Okay. Courtney Fromm reporting from the shelter-in-place order that was issued at 17th and Grove. As we take you back to the scene at the Table Mesa King Supers, again, awaiting that press conference 9 minutes from now. They did push it back, as is often the case with these things, as they do try to do their due diligence in gathering the information. But you can still see, just as it now begins to get darker on this eerie Monday evening in Boulder, Colorado, you see all of the law enforcement government agency vehicles just lining the streets of that King Soopers as they begin what will be likely a very long investigation. Really just so difficult to hear so many of these witnesses describe what they say was just a chaotic scene as they were rushing to the exits at the front store. We heard that one couple that said they were lucky to be right near the back of the store, right near the exit. We've pieced together, again, have not heard this officially, we've pieced together, we think that the gunman went from the parking lot where he first initially fired shots and moved his way slowly inside the store. We heard from one witness who said that he saw 3 lifeless bodies at the front of the store. We also heard a witness telling local media the shooter wasn't saying anything either as he was opening fire. Also, then we have not released this, obviously. We're very careful with the video that we release. We want to be sensitive at all times. That is of priority for us here at Fox 31. But video from a witness who apparently they've been talking about it live streamed on YouTube, some video from the store's parking lot showing a really chaotic scene as well. That's certainly something we don't always see in these situations, only adding to the heartbreak here tonight, Chairman.
Yeah, and you know, others may be reporting websites, maybe reporting Twitter and Facebook, and others may be reporting certain lurid details about what's gone on here. We're just not going to do that because there are families waiting for details about what's gone on with their loved one, and we want to make sure we get that information directly from police. I'm still struck, though, by that witness that Nicole talked to minutes ago, that restaurant owner who said, I told all my employees to go up there and get next to the window in case they had to jump out. Oh, what a sign of the times that we are living in when that's the sort of thing. Our Michael Konopasek still on scene there, talking to witnesses with equally harrowing stories, and he joins us now with one of them. Michael.
This is Eileen. This is her neighborhood, King Soopers, and we were just talking, Eileen, about, you know, how the reaction here in the community. I mean, this is a tight-knit area, I would assume. You probably know a lot of the people when you go in there. Yeah, you were just telling me you were on your way coming, you're on your way from work trying to get home. Hasn't been easy, of course. What's your reaction to everything that's happening in here right now, and what did you, yeah.
It's awful, and it's heart-wrenching, and I might know some of the people that have been injured. So. And
that's what we keep hearing is from people who are just walking by. I hope I don't know any of the people who are injured. Another story to this is the traffic, of course, not a priority story by any means, just an inconvenience, but it is something that is an issue as well. You said you're trying to get from North Boulder back to your home, and it's near impossible.
Well, I haven't figured out if it's impossible, but I'm not home yet.
You're not home yet. All right, well, we wish you a safe ride home.
And my heart goes out to any of the victims.
Yes, thank you, Eileen. Take care. So, again, this is just some of the people who are walking around right now. Just to give you a perspective from where we are, we'll have Dan, who's in a higher position than I am, my photographer, give you a good look here. The press conference that we keep waiting for is where you're looking at right now, which is just on the side of the King Soopers, and we have a lot of crews here from Fox 31, so we do have a crew on standby waiting for police to give us the very latest information. We're going to stick with this vantage point higher up, being able to give you more of a bird's eye view of what we're seeing. And as we get more people coming by us, perhaps eyewitnesses, perhaps people just trying to get home from work, like Eileen, we're going to continue to talk to them. We're going to continue to tell this story the best we can. Back to you guys.
Okay, Michael Konopasek, thank you so much. Just getting this, too, that Boulder Valley School District tweeting out that they are currently on secure lockout, that any students on the campus will stay inside. This is due to that police activity. They say do not, in all caps not, come to the area at this time. So clearly, the entire Boulder Metro on very high alert at this point. Also getting so many of our representatives and different state leaders tweeting their condolences. Representative Diana DeGette adding to them, saying our hearts go out to everyone in the Boulder area. We can't continue to live like this. We have to do more to protect our communities from the constant threat of gun violence. We have to find a way to come together and collectively declare enough is enough.
We want to take you live, if we can, to the parking lot of the Whole Foods, which is just up the road from this grocery store, the King Soopers on Table Mesa, where moments from now we do expect Boulder police to give us an update on the situation and on what unfolded this afternoon at King Soopers, because we don't know many confirmed details. All we know officially is that there was an active shooter at that King Soopers after 3 p.m. today, and from witnesses we've been able to cobble together the story that this person was in tactical gear firing shots. Other witnesses reporting at least 3 victims lifeless, not moving, 2 in the parking lot, 1 inside the store. But we don't know on the record much of anything, and we've been waiting all afternoon for that as Boulder police investigate this scene and a second scene at 17th and Grove in a neighborhood where they believe there have been maybe some connection, and they were looking at an armed and possibly dangerous person there. Kagan Harsha on the scene, too, as we continue to wait for this news conference. Kagan, what are you hearing?
Well, guys, we've seen more police vehicles pull up in the last couple of minutes. I want to show you the side here. A lot of these recent ones are from our Arvada Police Department, but a big line out here of more police vehicles while this scene still remains calm. We've heard reports of up to 3 people, victims in this case. You know, we don't know law enforcement if they were involved in any of this at all in terms of stopping that shooter when he was actively firing, or if any of them may have been injured. But we do want to point out we're seeing an American flag that's been draped outside on the ground right outside the front entrance of this King Soopers as we zoom in. And that happened a while ago. We're finally able to get a high enough vantage point to be able to see that. And we see several armed officers, SWAT team members, it appears, kind of standing right around that American flag. Now, we don't know what that is in regards to or why it was placed there. Just something new we've seen out on the scene today in the past couple of minutes. It's definitely a striking for us out here, and we've seen at least 5 or 6 officers standing right there beside it the entire time over the past couple of hours. Again, more law enforcement vehicles, police vehicles continue to arrive at the scene as we're now seeing at least, 3-4 dozen police cars lined up outside of this King Soopers in Boulder at this hour.
Yeah, one of the things that, Kagan, thanks so much, we're trying to assess this at this point as were there any police officers that were injured? We've heard unconfirmed reports at this point. It is interesting to see both that American flag and the officers that are lining up waiting to get corroboration from officials at this point to see exactly who was injured, if they know at this point, inside the King Soopers. Coming up here in just a couple of minutes. We've got Vicente Arenas outside of the Whole Foods where we are awaiting that update to come. The only confirmations that we've been able to make at this point are from phone calls that we made. We called area hospitals ourselves. We do know Boulder Community Health telling us that they had a patient condition unknown. And we also saw 3 air ambulances. Jeremy, you made the point earlier that we didn't, and this is certainly not something we want to, we report. It gives us a heavy heart, let's just say that the air ambulances never seemed to return back to the hospital. We actually now know there were 4 of those air ambulances, and again, none of them returned to the hospitals. They came from all over the place, Fort Collins and Greeley and Boulder and the metro area. None of them ever transported a single patient, which, as you said, is a bit disheartening, and we hope it doesn't forebode bad news that we anticipate hearing any time now from the Boulder Police Department. We are approaching the 6 o'clock hour as we look at this video from earlier this afternoon. These are store employees and customers being led away to safety. It really reminds me of that video we saw back in April 1999 outside Columbine of students, young kids, being rushed out of their building to safety after a shooting there. And as we've said, we are all too familiar with this kind of thing here in Colorado, far too familiar. Again, it's 6 o'clock now. This is breaking news coverage of the active shooting at the King Soopers on Table Mesa this afternoon in South Boulder. Yeah, we know, again, that this is just a couple miles from the University of Colorado Boulder campus. Definitely getting some emails at this point from concerned parents. We know that they have canceled classes after 5:30. We know several of the schools are on lockdown in that area. We've talked to several witnesses who just describe an utterly chaotic scene. One witness telling us earlier that they actually were the one to run inside the King Soopers and notify some of the shoppers that there was somebody with an AR-15 rifle, describing that person, interestingly enough, as a white male with brown hair. And you can see, interesting, the only person we have seen apprehended at this point is this man who's got the bloodied leg. We saw police escorting him outside of the building, looks to be handcuffed, and that's the only suspect. Now, again, the big question is, was this some sort of a corroborated attempt? We do know at 17th and Grove right now, and this is completely unconfirmed if it's related at all, all, that they have a shelter-in-place order. Our Courtney Fromm is on scene. They're monitoring the situation.
If I can interrupt real quickly, we now have it confirmed. Multiple law enforcement officers telling us that multiple law enforcement sources saying one officer has been killed and 2 others wounded. Again, this information coming from one of our reporters, confirmed by multiple law enforcement sources, saying 1 officer has been killed and 2 others wounded.
Yeah, and they say that the number of civilian casualties continues to change, so that is an unconfirmed number, so we will not give you that. Jeremy, that is not the news we wanted to report this evening.
Yeah, you know, and we've been hearing unconfirmed reports about this for the past couple of hours. Of course, we weren't going to report it unconfirmed, but again, we're getting this from several law enforcement sources now, and as you said, it's not the news we wanted to deliver, and I'm sure it's with a heavy heart that Boulder Police are going to talk about it just minutes from now, and it certainly could help explain that American flag that Kagan Harsha just saw draped outside the entrance to the King Superstore, surrounded by SWAT officers, which again, if true, if what we've confirmed appears to be true, these were the co-workers of the officer that appears to have lost his or her life today.
So unexpectedly here, called to duty Monday, just at 3 o'clock on reports of an active shooter, and little did they know. We are again awaiting the press conference to start here in just a couple of minutes. As you can see, we will update the graphic at the bottom of your screen with the very latest. As you can see, we know 2 officers wounded so far in the King Super shooting. That much we have confirmed, and that the 1 officer has killed. This is coming from multiple different outlets that we felt that it was safe to at least confirm this information on the air to you this evening.
Yeah, obviously in these situations you try to get it right and not necessarily first, and we are sad to report that news. Obviously any loss of life is devastating, but witnesses earlier today told us that one witness told us he saw 3 lifeless bodies there. 2 of them outside the store, face down in the parking lot, 1 inside the store. And hopefully we will get some more details and perhaps confirmation on that from Boulder Police when they begin this news conference just minutes from now. Again, they are running behind. They have pushed it back about 15 minutes from its anticipated start time. We are going to stay on the air with this continuous breaking news coverage because obviously there is still a whole lot to be learned, and we want you to learn it with us.
Yeah, we want to know the information really particularly regarding the number of victims, the extent of the injuries. We will get, again, another confirmation on these 2 officers wounded, the 1 officer that lost their lives there inside of that King Supers this afternoon, and more information on if that was indeed the suspect that we saw being apprehended there earlier today. That shooting, again, reported just before 3 p.m. if you're just now joining us at the 6 o'clock hour at the 3600 Table Mesa Drive King Supers. It's about 2 miles south, to give you an idea, of the University of Colorado Boulder campus, where they know they did go ahead and cancel classes into the evening. We've also heard from several school districts in the area that are keeping their students on lockdown, if there were any of them staying, likely for after-school activities. We have seen so many emergency crews responding to the scene of the active shooter, and the numbers only increasing. In fact, our Kagan Harsha right now bringing us a live look at a procession that seems to be lining up. Kagan, the confirmation just coming in that that officer was killed, likely explaining why we're seeing these vehicles line up now.
Yeah, exactly, guys. As we've been talking about, a very calm scene, and we continue to see the law enforcement presence continue to grow, though, however. We mentioned a few moments ago we saw Arvada police pull up. Well, in the past few minutes, we've seen even more police vehicles lining up on the street out in front of the store, stretching for several blocks at this point. Again, several officers, we're going to just show you the wide perspective out here, but guarding the kind of standing guard in the front of the building. We don't know any details about those officers at this point. We just know that they have been arriving from all across the metro and beyond here at the scene tonight. Part of the reason why hours later the presence continues to grow, and that's been the big question in a lot of residents' minds, the neighbors who live around here, is it seems like things the activity has died down, but yet we're seeing more people here. We're seeing still seeing SWAT team members on various parts of this building, though, surrounding it, still armed, walking around. And we don't want to show you their exact positions, but definitely still on guard, kind of surveying the entire area out here. So maybe just in case there is any more activity out here, but again, we don't have any reason to believe that. we've seen off and on throughout the day, people on top of the building, surrounding the building, across the street, pretty much everywhere you can imagine. And as this law enforcement presence has grown, so has the amount of spectators, people stopping by on their way home from work, just checking this out and starting to arrive at their homes here and seeing this huge police presence in what is a very busy residential and commercial area here in this part of Boulder.
All right, Kagan, thank you again. If you're just joining us, the confirmation that one law enforcement officer has been killed, 2 others wounded in this shooting today at King Soopers. We're just getting news that the news conference scheduled for first 5:45 and then 6 has been moved back to 6:30. So we will stay on the scene here as we look live at the microphone stand where we expect Boulder Police to address reporters just minutes from now. This is set up in the parking lot of the Whole Foods, which is about 3 miles away from the King Soopers where the shooting happened earlier today. For those unsure of the geography here, if you've been to Boulder, if you've driven from the Denver area, either via Highway 36 or Highway 93, you come to the south end of Boulder, and this is that first King Soopers you see to the west side of Highway 36 there. It is sort of adjacent to those tall towers on the south side of Boulder, those residences, and not far from the CU campus. And again, campus has shut down all classes tonight, post 5:30. Anything this evening, any night class has been canceled at CU Boulder as they continue to investigate what's gone on at this King Soopers today.
And the scene that continues to develop here tonight, too. Just after 5 p.m., we know Boulder Police sent out an emergency notification asking people that do live right near that 17th and Grove Street to shelter in place. They're responding to a report of an armed, and dangerous individual. Unclear if, again, that suspect is related to this King Soopers shooting. We know those of you that are watching us in Boulder right now are on an extraordinarily high alert. Can only imagine that there are parents watching us with students at CU Boulder, knowing that this is miles away from where their children attend school. We also know that some of you have high schoolers that are in lockdown in nearby high schools. Some of you are waiting to hear from your loved ones that may have been in the area or in businesses that are in lockdown. Please know that our hearts are heavy with you. We also want to thank you for so many of the tips that you've sent us, tips at KDVR.com. We've gotten video from you. We had witnesses call into us that were among the heroes in the situation, that were running into the store to alert the shoppers of what was happening, the horrific scene that was happening just feet away from them unknowingly as they just thought they were checking out their groceries here on this Monday afternoon. So thank you to those of you who have sent in the tips. And if you have questions or anything that we can be of help, please continue to send those emails, tips at KDVR.com.
Pretty much the only confirmed detail we can give you is that one person has been taken to the hospital. That was Foothills Hospital in Boulder. And that was the person being led away in handcuffs with the bloodied leg. Presumably the suspect, although again not confirmed. Governor Polis, who calls Boulder home, of course, a short time ago saying via Twitter, like my fellow Coloradans, I'm closely watching unfolding events at King Soopers in Boulder. My prayers are with our fellow Coloradans in this time of sadness and grief as we learn more about the extent of the tragedy. And if we could, can we go back to that picture you guys just had of all those officers gathered together at the front entrance, because that is really chilling, striking, and sad, because this is where Kagan moments ago saw that American flag draped on the ground, and you can see these officers from the Boulder Police Department gathered there on the scene, and again preparing for this procession, which has become an all too familiar sight here in Colorado as officers lose their life in the line of duty. I remember it just a few months ago when an officer was killed in a crash in Commerce City. We saw it in Douglas County a couple years back, and several other places here in the metro. It is a dangerous job, and the folks in Boulder learned that today for sure.
And here they are standing right in front of windows that have been completely broken out because of the chaos that ensued earlier. And so many people, so many of the witnesses today have said it could have been me. And of course, those officers thinking of their fellow brother or sister in blue and thinking that that could have easily been them today too. Jerry, I have to say, I mean, in about a decade doing this with you, I think some of our darkest moments together, bringing viewers news on the air, have seen the officers that are just overtaken by the solemn news of losing one of their coworkers.
Well, it's crushing, not just for law enforcement, but for anybody who knows and loves Colorado. It's crushing, and it's a far too familiar sight. I mean, the sad reality is when this story broke earlier today, we sort of went into familiar mode because we know how to do these. Unfortunately, it's become familiar, and I wish we didn't know how to cover stories like this, but we've learned over time how to cover them because they just keep happening.
Well, it's just like Representative Diana DeGette said earlier, enough is enough. And I think we all are so overcome with that same sentiment. And again, I mean, just here we go. We've got another, it looks like, a police vehicle rushing by. You have to wonder, again, this is purely speculative, and we can't emphasize that enough, if they are trying to figure out if that 17th and Grove scene is related. Any of the activity that we see right now, it seems to be going in the direction of that 17th and Grove. So again, we do have reporters on standby there. But as I was saying, here is that scene, live scene for you. We've got, again, a team of reporters monitoring right now, trying to see was there some sort of a corroborated attempt here today. But unbelievable to see, as I was saying, Jeremy, so many of the officers responding so quickly, departments from all across the state that were there. I mean, we came on the air just before 3 o'clock, and we saw by 3:30 dozens upon dozens upon dozens of SWAT officers, ATF, police officers, fire officials, all of them responding on scene. Yeah, we heard from a couple of witnesses who said they thought law enforcement was on the scene within a couple of minutes. So yeah, as you said, they were right there. They helped make the response a quick one, and that no doubt likely saved lives today. As we see these two officers covered in tactical gear appear to be leaving the scene there on a somber night for law enforcement in Boulder, with the news that at least one officer has been killed, 2 wounded in this King Soopers shooting. Now, we don't know about other casualties. There have been a range of numbers on social media and elsewhere of people saying this many were injured, this many were injured. We just don't know that number. And again, we hope to get that information from police. But we do know what we heard from from first responders, I should say, sorry, witnesses. They said they saw, one person said he saw 3 lifeless bodies there on the scene face down. And so those are the details that we hope to get confirmed by police officially without further speculation. Yeah, we do have a team of reporters, to our count 7 right now, and they're photographers that are spanned out all over the Boulder Metro covering this story. We are trying to bring you every single angle. And if you do have to back away from your television, we want to remind you KDVR has a free app you can download. We will send push alerts with any big breaking developments at any time. KDVR.com also has minute-by-minute updates. We try to give you all of the latest tweets and information that we can see. Anything, again, that's official. We try really hard here to not deliver misinformation. So make sure that you are tuned in with our several different avenues so that you can be on top of the story as well.
Quick point of clarification, that Whole Foods that I mentioned being 3 miles away is not. It's just across the road there in Boulder. So we expect that news conference from that nearby Whole Foods just minutes from now. Meantime, we will talk to some more of our reporters who've been there on the scene, including our Michael Konopasek talking to witnesses today. Michael.
Yeah, Jeremy, we have been talking to a lot of witnesses. I can tell you from where we are right now, we have seen a lot of police leaving. So let's just go through the chronological order of our experience being here. When we first arrived, of course, there was a swarm. I don't even know if words could really describe just how many police officers were here from our vantage point. As far as the eye could see, not nearly as many, although there's still a good number. And I would relate it to, from my reporting experience, about the same as the STEM school shooting in Highlands Ranch. But now a lot have left from multiple different agencies, but there will still be undoubtedly a large police presence here for many, many more hours to come as the investigation continues. But when we first got here, it was a frantic situation where we did see SWAT officers running to different locations. Now, we haven't seen that for quite some time, of course, and then the very latest is, we're actually seeing law enforcement officials leave. we're in Boulder. We're in Boulder County, and I saw the sheriff of Jefferson County. I saw Denver's police chief, and then you see the rank and file from multiple agencies, ATF, FBI, so you have federal, state, and local. It's just incredible just what kind of a response we have, and then, of course, we've confirmed that one officer has lost his or her life. So again, this is the vantage point that we're going to continue to stay at for a while as we continue to see people coming and going. We want to make sure that we have the very best information that we have until that press conference happens. So we are continually looking for people who may have seen something that we have not yet reported out yet. And that's going to be our objective from now on.
I imagine at this point most of the witnesses have left the scene to go be reunited with their friends and their family. Is there anybody that's kind of hanging around? Maybe they're looking for their car, looking for their vehicle, or has it kind of quieted where you are?
It's quieted quite a bit, Aristea, and you're exactly right. What you're seeing is what we're experiencing. So yes, there were lots of witnesses and not as many anymore. I mean, we just aren't seeing as many. And so we are anxious, of course, for that police press conference to give us the very latest information, the most detailed information. In fact, something I did just see on Twitter from Boulder Police is that there is a lot of misinformation on social media right now. And we take lots and lots of caution. We take lots of time to make sure that what we're reporting out, of course, is accurate. And we're talking to people who are eyewitnesses. But just so many people have cell phones, of course. So many people live stream these days. Just one tap on Facebook, you could just be somebody shopping in the grocery store and you could be broadcasting out to the masses on Facebook. And so what police are saying is that they're monitoring social media and seeing that there's a lot of misinformation out there in general. So we are really anxious to hear directly from them so they can clear that up.
Indeed, we are. Michael Konopasek on scene there. Thank you so much. We've been talking about this eyewitness account, these eyewitness accounts that we got early on in the afternoon from people who had seen what unfolded. Let's listen to some of that.
I saw a man with a semi-automatic rifle shooting at people in the parking lot. I saw a dead body on the ground in the parking lot. I know he was dead because they took him away in a body bag a few minutes later when the police came.
Heard gunshots going off. Heard it sounded like a heavy caliber type, maybe a shotgun. And so I have a live stream, so I fired up immediately. And I never saw anyone, but I saw some victims on the ground as I came around the corner.
That was Dean Schiller, the last person you heard from right there, with the most sort of stunning account of what unfolded there. He reported seeing 3 lifeless bodies at the grocery store today.
Yeah, so difficult to hear it. It's almost surreal. We can only even imagine what it would have been like to be a Dean Schiller and to be in that situation. Just absolutely heartbreaking. Again, it's 6:18 right now. We have the last report. Clearly, they are very busy right now. We are being told that the press conference will happen now at 6:30 at this Whole Foods that is right there across the way. If you are just joining us, we're going to give you what we do know. This is the stuff that we have confirmed at this point. We know that there was an active shooter reported at the King Soopers at Table Mesa Drive just before 3 o'clock. We are awaiting any information regarding that number of victims. We're awaiting information regarding the suspect, potentially suspects. We know hundreds of law enforcement vehicles from different agencies responded. We have seen them continuing to respond as well. And we know just after 5 p.m., Boulder Police Department sent out an emergency notification. They asked people at that apartment complex that's right near 17th and Grove to shelter in place. Will they go ahead and respond to a report of a dangerous individual and an armed individual? One of the big questions at this point that continues to remain as we see this area that's blocked off here with caution tape. It's unclear if that suspect is related to the King Soopers shooting. Certainly a big looming question and something that Boulder residents are fearful of at this point. We also know classes at CU Boulder that were set to begin at 5:30 are now canceled from this point on. And on that note, Greg Nieto live on the campus of CU Boulder right now. Greg, so many parents texting me, writing me, and worried about their students, understandably so.
Yeah, and again, to be clear, we're still a few miles away between the King Soopers and the CU Boulder campus, but point taken, Aristea. We're actually here just outside the CU Event Center. This is being called the reunification point or center itself. You can see the yellow tape here. Basically, what's going to happen is folks from the King Soopers parking lot will be shuttled over here, taken inside to be basically reunited with their family members and friends, and then they'll come down through this area right here, and that's why they have the tape, of course, to give these folks the distance and respect that they deserve as they are reunited with their families. But quite the law enforcement presence here just for this part of the process. We have folks here from Jefferson County Sheriff's Office who are in front. We also have police officers from the Erie Department who are here as well to have this process go as smoothly as possible. And it's supposed to take place here at any minute. So again, for good reason, we're several miles away from the King Soopers. It gives plenty of space in between what has happened earlier today and an opportunity to be reunited with so many folks who have waited, for the good news to see their loved ones. I know a lot of our crews have been talking to different folks who are waiting for their loved ones. We had talked to one lady who was simply waiting for her daughter who worked at the King Soopers, and she was told at one point this will be the spot where once again they will be reunited. As for the campus itself, we still see plenty of students kind of going from spot to spot, but again, hopefully some happy moments about to take place here inside and outside the CU Event Center.
We sure hope so, because we've seen that go both ways in our experience here in Colorado with mass shootings. So we certainly hope there are some happy reunions after the shooting there where you are. Greg, thank you. Just getting an update from Courtney Fromm about that scene there at 17th and Grove where those reverse 911 calls had gone out telling people to take shelter. Courtney's telling us now that they're taking down this tape and that the SWAT team appears to have moved. There's no longer a fluid scene here. Not sure where they went, but they've reopened the street there, 17th. And this does not appear to be a very active scene right now. So that new detail coming to us from Courtney Fromm, one of our many reporters on the scene covering this story this afternoon. Again, we await this news conference at the nearby Whole Foods just a few minutes from now, where we expect new details. And we already know that some of them will be heartbreaking, because we have been able to confirm one officer's been killed, 2 officers wounded. At least there may be bigger numbers than what we're seeing here, but we can confirm 1 officer killed, 2 officers wounded in this King Sooper shooting.
And if any of the witness accounts come to fabrication too, certainly we know it will be heartbreaking news that's delivered tonight. I wanted to add too, in that 17th and Grove scene, I understand from a source close to the area that it's really close to Boulder High School, that area. So thank you for that. I think that it does explain why Boulder High School has decided to go on lockdown at this point. Again, not knowing if that person that was there considered armed and dangerous was connected to the incident that happened starting at 3 o'clock at King Soopers. So Boulder High School clearly taking that precaution as well.
Also, Aristea, just getting word, the President of the United States has been briefed on this. This coming from his press secretary, Jen Psaki. She tweeted, the President has been briefed on the shooting in Colorado. He'll be kept up to date by his team as there are additional developments. So this news reaching the White House tonight. President Biden has been briefed on what is going on here in Boulder, Colorado.
And that just underscores the tragedy that we're experiencing right in our state and so many people's backyards at this point. You know, one of the things we've been really careful to, and police ask this of all media, so we hope that all of our counterparts have taken the same caution. We've tried very hard to not show any of tactical strategy by police officers. You never know in these situations who may be monitoring. And so we certainly take that quite seriously. So forgive some of the quick movements on our camera work. This is a live developing situation, and oftentimes that's how it manifests on the air. Our Ashley Michaels on scene right now. Ashley, last time we talked, you were just across from King Soopers. You still there? What are you seeing now?
Hey, Aristea, yeah, we've actually moved to the corner of Table Mesa and Broadway instead. I want to give you just kind of an overview look at what we're seeing. We've got still a lot of police cars. I know a lot have left throughout the evening so far. There's still quite a large police presence. I want to kind of just show you down Broadway here, and there's just flashing lights up and down. There are still a lot of people just milling about, a lot of people we've been talking to throughout the day. And I kind of asked a lot of these people, you know, what is it that's keeping you here? And they just feel a real connection to what happened inside. Some of them were inside. Some of them were about to go inside to go grocery shopping. And a lot of them say, you know, they just haven't been able to leave the scene because they feel such a connection to what's happening here. They're invested in it. They want to make sure they know the people that they know inside are safe, or people that they know were supposed to be shopping here are safe. Still, a lot of those questions out here tonight, just a lot of uncertainty. And I think that's the reason we still have quite a lot of folks who are just, you know, standing around watching. Not a lot actually happening right now, but they just can't take their eyes away from it. They're still waiting on those details like we are at this hour. But, you know, if you guys can kind of look off into the distance, I want to paint this other perspective for you. This is right in front of the Flatirons. You guys, this is one of the most beautiful scenes in Denver, in Boulder, excuse me, and just such a tragic scene in front of one of the most picturesque, iconic places in this city, in all of Colorado, really. And it's really just tough to see this large police presence and hear all of the horrible things that have happened here today. A lot of the folks that I've been talking to, they still haven't really processed what they've seen, what they've heard, and what they've felt out here today. I think it's going to take a long time for all of us. Jeremy and Aristea.
Yeah, indeed it will. Sadly, though, we've been through this before, many of us, and so we're all too used to reporting this kind of news. I'm still struck by some of the people and their attention to detail. We saw Brian Crucy earlier. He was in the line at the store and heard what he thought was fireworks, and then he looked out and saw a guy in the parking lot with tactical gear firing his gun. So he ran out to the back of the store, told others to get out of there too, and they all went to the loading dock and got out. And then there was Dean Schiller, who saw, you know, these 3 lifeless bodies in the parking lot and was live streaming much of what happened today on YouTube, and thousands of people watched it all unfold.
Yeah, certainly something we don't often see in these situations. I want to add to, I'm just hearing from a parent, Jeremy, from the Boulder Valley School District, saying that, as we've reported, Boulder High on secure lockout. Apparently, a lot of these students and coaches and athletic teams were all at Boulder High School. They were alerted then of police responding to that situation at 17th and Grove. This parent says so far that they have heard everybody is safe, and they are at this point still waiting for the all clear. We know they're on secure lockout, so that means any students on campus, they have to stay inside as long as that police activity resumes right outside from where they are.
At 6:28 right now, we await word from the Boulder Police Department. We expect a news conference a couple of minutes from now, although that's fluid and it may change. It's already changed a couple of times. As we continue to see law enforcement gathered there in the King Soopers parking lot, here's some more officers arriving there on the scene. They appear to be in tactical SWAT gear. Not sure what department. I can't see that quite yet because they're covering up the markings there. It may be Boulder Police, not sure. But what we typically see in these situations, based on the information we've confirmed that one officer's been killed, is that there'll be some sort of procession tonight, likely from the scene of the shooting to the county coroner's office. If this holds true to past experience like this, and it likely will, and sadly there is a lot of past experience when it comes to this kind of thing in Colorado. We've had plenty of law enforcement deaths in the line of duty and in recent times too, so we've seen this process unfold. So in theory they are going to line up and form a procession that will then take to the streets of Boulder later on this evening as we await more word on what happened.
Yeah, we're doing our best here to gather details as we await official confirmation. They tell us that should be coming in 2 minutes. Clearly, they are working hard to confirm their details before they go public with them. Did just receive a message at Boulder Valley Schools on spring break right now, so that's reassuring, of course, for a lot of parents in the area, because we know that this happened probably right around the time that schools would have been let out. So Boulder Valley Schools on spring break. If you are just now joining us and looking at these images, they're probably making the hairs on your arms stand a little bit right now. We know an active shooting happened, prompting this massive response to this grocery store. It's right there on Table Mesa Drive. It's just 2 miles at the University of Colorado Boulder campus, just 2 miles south of where this is. You see so many businesses there right in the area, as we show you, the Chase Bank right there. A lot of those businesses put on lockdown immediately once they heard reports of an active shooter, and it's been just just unbelievable. There hasn't been a reporter we've taken live yet. We have several of them on the scene who hasn't remarked on the hundreds of officers really from all around the metro area that have responded. And our Kagan Harsha is right in the middle of that response. Kagan, have you seen the response die down at all, or does it only continue to grow as the procession continues to grow?
Yeah, it continues to grow. We talked about this team that just arrived, these SWAT team members. This is from the Boulder County Sheriff's Office. We've been able to confirm. And the presence continues to grow by the minute here as we see more vehicles pulling up, dropping off more officers and SWAT team members. And the vehicles, if you look back here at the front of the store, kind of outside, we really filled in all these areas. We're now stretching all the way to the store, up and down the streets for blocks. Hard to say how many police vehicles we're seeing out here, but it's at least conservative estimate 4 or 5 dozen out here. Again, since the moment we've arrived, not realizing this when we arrived on the scene, we've seen this contingent of 5 or 6 officers, armed officers, SWAT gear, it looks like, right outside the entrance of King Soopers. And that is where we saw that American flag shortly after we got here. But the police department's representative, we've seen sheriff's offices, we've seen a lot of departments from across the metro in Denver show up. Arvada, Westminster, Denver, list goes on, and those officers have continued to arrive. We've seen firefighters as well. We still have a fire truck with a bucket up to the top of the building, and we saw a few firefighters walking up on top of the building a short time ago. Not sure what they are doing out here, but definitely appears that we're going to have a procession of some kind as the end of this police line keeps getting pushed further up the street over the past hour. And as you just saw moments ago, that armored vehicle dropped off between a couple armored vehicles, I should say, several dozen SWAT team members in tactical gear a short time right in front of this store. Those again from the Boulder County Sheriff's Department. Jeremy Arcea.
Kagan, we're just getting some new information here, and we are able to confirm multiple fatalities now, including that one police officer. So we now know several people have been killed. We can't give you an exact number, but multiple fatalities, including a police officer, in this shooting today at the King Soopers.
And that really does explain this huge police response that we saw earlier. Kagan, go ahead. You're on scene. Tell us what you see.
And Jeremy, I was just going to tell you and Arcea, yeah, I'm out here if you guys can still hear me. You talked about confirming those fatalities. We have seen some video given to us out here that we haven't been able to necessarily show yet. Of at least, and this matches what witnesses have told us, at least 2 of those individuals have been shot out in the parking lot. We saw those bodies on the ground through some videos taken by witnesses earlier today. We also saw someone lying on the floor of that store just inside the entrance here. So we've seen at least 3 through videos, people that were victims to this mass shooting out here today. Again, not sure how many of those are law enforcement officers, how many were customers of this store. And we've been talking about this throughout the afternoon, but just an eerie scene for a lot of these folks who were just arriving as this was all happening. In fact, people were told were walking into the store when that shooter was inside, not knowing that there was an active shooting situation. At the time, there were people just trying to rush for the exits, and you can only imagine arriving at this store to do your shop for your groceries and not fully comprehending what was happening until you got inside. We've heard seen videos too. You can hear the gunshots inside the store. Again, witnesses out here said they heard at least a dozen gunshots in pretty quick, rapid succession. They saw that individual kind of darting across the parking lot, described as frantic as he was moving through here, and people just running for cover at the same time that others were nonchalantly arriving to shop for groceries.
Okay.
Kagan, thank you.
We understand the news conference is just about to begin here any minute, so we want to go to that Whole Foods. It's just across the way to make sure that we are
5 minutes.
Already, we're getting a 5-minute warning.
We've got some time here. Somebody pointed out, and they make a good point. This is supposed to be such a celebratory, triumphant time for Boulder. We got the CU Buffs playing in the basketball tournament and doing quite well. We've seen this school and this community rebound from the pandemic. Hopefully things getting back to normal. Inside this very store, there were lab techs administering COVID shots. This was supposed to be that time of year finally when we were starting to have something to be positive about, and then you see something like this unfold.
Well, and Jeremy, you said it so beautifully earlier that, you know, we have referred to so many of the people that work at our King Supers, that work at our grocery stores. I mean, we can all think back to a year ago. They're our heroes. They were making sure we were fed. They were putting themselves at risk doing it. We know several deaths that happened within the King Supers family, and we learned what a tight-knit family that was. And now for this to come on the heels, multiple fatalities, including a police officer, to come on the heels of what that family has already been through. It's really heartbreaking to report.
We can also tell you, you may be wondering why our helicopter's not in the air. There's a TFR in place. It's called a temporary flight restriction. Basically, law enforcement's put this in place while they investigate the scene. They don't want a lot of air traffic overhead, and so they put this TFR in place, and it's going to be in place through, I believe, tomorrow night. While they continue this investigation, 7 p.m. tomorrow, if my information is correct. And so typically in these situations, we would show you via helicopter this long procession. We won't be able to show you that. Nevertheless, the images will be heart-rendering from the ground and heartbreaking for the co-workers of this law enforcement officer among multiple fatalities at this King Supers today after this shooting.
Yeah, and we definitely will have our reporters on the ground taking you through that entire procession as we pay respect to the officer that lost their life there today. Again, just probably a couple minutes out, we finally got a 5-minute warning, which is a good sign, as officers continue to do their due diligence in gathering information today. But there's definitely some unknowns that we've been waiting since we first came on the air before 3 o'clock here this evening. So we're now going on 3.5 hours and counting, but we are definitely waiting to hear more on official word when it comes to the victims that lost their lives there this afternoon at the King Supers, and also the suspect. You know, Jeremy, what sticks with me, it was bone chilling when we heard the gentleman come on earlier, Brian, and say to us, I mean, minutes after it happened, he said I saw a guy with an AR-15. I ran into the King Supers, likely knowing that's where that the shooter was going, and he just started screaming to people to get down. I mean, you'd hope that in that situation you'd have that same instinct, that same heroic instinct, but you don't know. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Indeed it is. We were talking about the Boulder and you know, how they're doing well in the tournament, the basketball team is. We saw a tweet from CU Boulder Athletics a while ago saying we're shocked and saddened by the shooting that's rocked the Boulder community this afternoon. Our hearts go out to those impacted. Campus resources available to those who need them. Again, these are kids who are off in Indianapolis taking part in this basketball tournament and wondering what's going on back home. And so you have to feel for them and everybody with any connection to the community, to the school, to the grocery store. We talked about what a difficult year this has been for grocery workers. We know at least 3 King Supers employees alone died from coronavirus, working right there on the front lines, trying to help people through this pandemic. And then this has been such a difficult year for grocery store workers, for first responders, law enforcement, and then to see something like this happen in the spring, which tends to be when these things happen here in Colorado for whatever reason, it's pretty disheartening.
It really is. Like I said, it's the darkest moments that we have as broadcasters, delivering news like this to you. You can see all the microphones set up there on the left of your screen at the podium, awaiting the official word, and the caution tape that's there. So clearly they're right in front of the scene, about to give us. So I wonder if is this the Whole Foods? Can we get confirmation, or is this on scene?
That's the Whole Foods.
Oh, so it really is right across the street.
Yeah, it is. And they say, they just tweeted, press conference about to begin. It will be live streamed. Of course, we'll show it to you here, so no reason to watch that. Michael Konoposka has a bit more information on that procession while we await this news conference. Kono, quickly, what do you know?
Yeah, Jeremy, I just spoke to a Denver police officer because we saw them lining up. We thought perhaps that would be the start of the procession, but that Denver police officer told me that it is going, he believes, to be led by the Colorado State Patrol. They went ahead and are taking on this duty, and of course we'll start from the parking lot, and then, as you mentioned, most likely over right to the coroner's office. So we are going to monitor that, and once it starts, of course, we'll provide you live images of that.
And Connor, did they give you any sense of how many departments might be involved in this?
Oh, my goodness. Just from, I mean, we lost count. It is truly amazing how many different agencies we have seen here. I wouldn't be surprised if we have more than a couple dozen agencies. That's an estimation on my part, but I feel like it's a pretty safe one.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. We've certainly seen numbers like that. All right, let's go back to the podium there at the Whole Foods across the street. It looks like law enforcement officers are getting ready to approach the microphone. I say that as they walk away, so we will continue to keep an eye on this. Apologies, these things are fluid. Obviously, they are hesitant, I'm sure, to deliver the heartbreaking news that we have confirmed, and that is that multiple people are dead, including one law enforcement officer.
You know, you think about so many of the visuals that you've seen here in the last 3 hours, some of the poignant videos, another police officer, City of Arvada, detailing again just how many of the departments and agencies have reported from the state. But back to the images that we showed you here today on your TV screens as they develop live. We have seconds sometimes to censor it before we bring it to you. But you think about the American flag that you saw draped right outside the King Soopers, where the windows were blown out eerily. The windows were blown out eerily. You think about the image of the SWAT officers with their heads hung somber. You think about the image of the man bloodied without a shirt being taken out. The images of men and women comforting one another, family members, young shoppers that were inside, CU Boulder students that were inside. And it's heartbreaking to kind of think of the sum total that this is going to have here on our community collectively in the next days, months, and years coming. This is going to be something we refer to, and it's definitely a somber, dark moment for our state.
Not just for our state, but for the parent company of King Soopers. A viewer just alerted me to the fact that just days ago at a Kroger warehouse distribution center near Milwaukee, a worker shot and killed two co-workers. This was last Tuesday night, just days ago. Same company, Kroger, and this all unfolded just last week. So obviously difficult times for those folks and for all of Colorado as we continue to follow this story.
Yeah. Again, if you are just joining us and you're awaiting the press conference, there are a lot of unanswered questions at this point. We are awaiting an exact number. We know multiple fatalities as a result of that active shooter, but we are definitely awaiting the exact number. In fact, we're just getting a tweet coming in, let me see, from the Boulder Police Department, trying to give you new information as soon as it happens. The shelter-in-place notice at 17th and Grove has officially been lifted, and they are saying, again, confirming that this press conference here will begin momentarily. But it's a press conference so many of us are waiting with bated breath to see if the injuries and the fatalities, unfortunately, our minds have gone to a dark place. So will they meet where our minds have already raced?
A viewer just also made the point, you may have seen this at other grocery stores. Some of them have these mobile security cameras in the parking lot, these mobile security cameras that are parked there in a parking space. They have sort of a high angle, and they take pictures of and video of everybody who comes and goes. And this person says that this Boulder King Soopers has one of those, so perhaps it did capture some of the images of what happened today. No doubt that will be a useful tool for police if true. Obviously, they'll have security camera video from inside and outside the store there as they piece together this investigation. Our Ashley Michaels right there still at the store as we await this news conference there on the left side of your screen. Ashley, what are you learning now about this procession and the people still at the scene?
I mean, we've started to see some movement with some of the police vehicles. You heard Michael Konopasek saying he was guessing maybe 2 dozen. I would say he's probably right on the money with that one. This is one of the largest police presences that I have seen at any incident like this in the years that I have been covering news here, and it's just heartbreaking to see. And they're likely moving right now to be part of this procession. I'm going to give you a live look behind us. We had just seen a line of vehicles go toward the Flatiron, so that would be west of where we are at Table Mesa and Broadway, right in front of that King Soopers that we have been talking about all day long. Now, as you guys have been talking, these processions, unfortunately, we know how this works. These police vehicles that are here from all of these different agencies, some from as far as, 20, 30 miles away. We've got Denver here. We've got Jefferson County here. Agencies from all over the Front Range and Denver metro area. They're going to be lining up basically to pay tribute to this officer who we do know has fallen. And we do expect to learn more details about who that is. And as those come out, you know, we'll see more tributes pouring in for that officer and the department that that officer belongs to as well. It's really a powerful moment when you see all of the police lights lined up in mourning, driving through the streets. They'll eventually end at the Boulder County Coroner's Office, where we typically see lots of American flags draped in honor of that officer. We do expect that here tonight as well. And, you know, I have to say, as we've been learning more details about what's happened, and now we know that an officer has lost his or her life, the mood of the crowd of people who have been out here all day long has sort of switched from everybody kind of panicked, wanting to know all these answers, to a much more somber tone, a much more just devastated tone out here as we now wait to learn more answers about who indeed has lost their lives out here. Jeremy, Aristea.
Yeah, and sadly that's a plural, it sounds like, which is just devastating. Again, this news conference running behind. It was first supposed to be about an hour ago, and we still await word from Boulder Police. We will bring it to you just the second we get it as we continue to follow this breaking news. Several people dead, including a police officer after this King Soopers shooting. Aristea.
Yeah, multiple fatalities. And again, this law enforcement official response has just been unbelievable. So many people saying within minutes, so many of these officers were on scene to help the people, the innocent shoppers that were there inside of the King Soopers. And I'm also hearing from CU alumni, CU Boulder alumni, apparently this is a really popular King Soopers. It's highly trafficked by students. Had so many of the parents that have been so concerned about their students there today. We know the shooting happened at 2:30, and we know that when state law enforcement arrived, the suspect opened fire, clearly opened fire on one of the officers as well as some of the shoppers. We've gotten witness accounts, multiple witness accounts, all saying the same thing, which is that the shooter slowly made their way from the parking lot inside of that King Soopers building. And you can see evidence of gunshots inside the King Soopers as well. Eerie images of the windows that had been completely shattered from inside, and video from the scene that showed a man with a bloody leg being led away from the store earlier in handcuffs, being put into an ambulance. Again, we're waiting for police clarification to see if that man was indeed or is named as a suspect here in the shooting today, as well as more details on the number of fatalities and the extent of the injuries that happened there inside the grocery store.
Again, we are watching law enforcement reporters gather there at the scene of the Whole Foods, which is just down the road there from the King Soopers off Table Mesa. For geography's sake again, for those familiar with Boulder, this is on the south side of town, just as you enter the city from either US 36 or Highway 93 there. Where the two come together, not far away, this King Soopers store sits on the south side of town. And again, all we can give you without much more specificity is that multiple people have been killed in this shooting today. There again, that video Aristea was talking about on the right side of your screen. This man led away in handcuffs, his leg on the right side there. As you'll see when we zoom in a bit tighter here, his leg bloodied. He's hobbling a bit. He's cuffed behind his back. He appears to be wearing underwear only. No shoes, no pants, no shirt. Balding there with dark hair and a dark beard, loosely matching the description of one of our eyewitnesses who we spoke to earlier today. And you can see that he's being tended to on the right there by a firefighter from Boulder. On the left, he's being escorted in his cuffs by a Boulder police officer, and behind a SWAT officer to make sure he doesn't go anywhere. At first, they led him to an ambulance, then they took him to another ambulance, took him to the hospital. We can now confirm at least 6 people are dead. At least 6 people confirmed dead in this shooting. Now that information just coming to us from law enforcement sources and our own Deborah Takahara. Again, the headline just now, 6 people confirmed dead in this shooting at this King Soopers in Boulder today. That includes at least 1 law enforcement officer.
And we believe at this point, we're waiting for confirmation that that's the suspect. So at this point, the speculation, but that we're thinking that those are victims that were shot and killed. And that would explain, again, a lot of the aeromedics that we saw land on scene, never to return to the hospital. This is when you don't love to be a broadcaster, Jeremy. These are the moments confirming 6 dead in our state in an active shooting situation. This is certainly not the news that we wanted to be bringing to you all this evening, and we are awaiting confirmation here from officers. Although, again, one of the reasons we're, like Jeremy said, is we're not always first because we do our due diligence in making sure before we bring you any information that it has been vetted not once, not twice, but 3 times to make sure that we are tracing our steps and taking our responsibility as journalists quite seriously.
Yeah. All right, let's take a picture if we can. Here it is live from the scene there. This is the Whole Foods parking lot. We can see law enforcement officers approaching the microphone stand. We believe these are the officers and public information officers who will debrief us on what's gone on here this afternoon. Seeing somebody in a suit there, not sure if that's a law enforcement officer or somebody from a prosecutor's office, not sure yet. We'll find out all about that. He's the district attorney, Michael Doherty. That's confirmed there. And again, law enforcement coming to the microphone as we await our first official on-the-record details about this shooting from Boulder Police that unfolded this afternoon. Let's listen in.
IONNEWAUGH. I'm the public information officer for the Boulder Police Department. We're going to have 3 speakers. Commander Kerry Yamaguchi with the Boulder Police Department is going to speak first. It's Commander, and it's KERRYYAMAGUCHI. And then we're going to have District Attorney Michael Doherty, MICHAEL DOUGHERTY. And then we're going to have Kelly McGannon from King Super speak. It's KELLYMCGANNON. After they speak, we will take a few questions. But please understand we're in the very early stages of a very large investigation that is going to take some time. So we will not be able to answer a lot of your questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Commander Kerry Yamaguchi from the Boulder Police Department.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? As Dion shared, we had a very tragic incident today here at the King Supers. There was loss of life. We have multiple people who were killed in this incident. And I am sorry to have to report that one of them was a Boulder police officer. During this trying time, I would ask the media and the public to honor the privacy of the officer's family and his co-workers here at the police department. I will also share that we got tremendous support from our fellow law enforcement agencies, both in Boulder County, which some of them you see behind me, the FBI, ATF, and other Denver metro agencies. Without that quick response, we don't know if there would have been more loss of life. I can share with the public today, or this evening, that there is no ongoing public threat, that we do have a person of interest in custody. That person was injured during the incident and is being treated for the injuries.
Good evening. My name is Michael Doherty. I'm the District Attorney for Boulder County. This is a tragedy and a nightmare for Boulder County, and in response we have cooperation and assistance from local, state, and federal authorities. This will very much be a coordinated effort, and we will stand united in support of the victims and their families to ensure that justice is done. It's a very early stage in the investigation, as you've heard, and we have a lot of work to do, but we'll be giving out more information as that becomes available and as we nail down the facts here. As Commander Yamaguchi said, there is an individual in custody currently with multiple victims, and we'll be doing everything we can to fight for them and their families to make sure that we reach the right and just outcome. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kelly McGannon, spokesperson for King Supers.
Our hearts are broken over this senseless act of violence. The entire King Soopers family offers our thoughts, prayers, and support to our associates, our customers, and first responders who so bravely responded to these acts of violence. We're working in full cooperation with local law enforcement and will be deferring all questions to them for the integrity of the investigation. Thank you.
Take a few questions.
Commander, can you tell us what happened?
So, as has already been mentioned, we're very early in the investigation. As Dion shared, that we responded here, officers were here within minutes of the initial 911 calls and entered the building very quickly.
Do you know any possible motive for this?
Very early in the investigation, we don't have any details that I can share at this point. There will be additional information released as it's gathered and it's appropriate to release, but that will come from the Boulder Police Department.
How many people have died? Fatalities or injuries? Can you confirm the number of deaths?
When did the call come in?
Just before 3 o'clock?
Just before 3 o'clock today.
Can you tell us how many people have died?
We're very early in the investigation. We are still processing the scene.
Do you know if the shooter said anything as the shooter entered the building?
That will be part of the investigation.
What happened on 17th Street?
That was unrelated, we believe, to this incident.
Is there only one shooter?
We're still investigating.
Are there injuries in addition to those who were killed?
Were there injuries in addition to those who were killed?
So at this point, the only injured party we are aware of significant injury was the suspect. We know of no other serious injuries at this point.
Can you tell us information about the suspect?
No.
Commander, do you know if there was any relationship between the gunman and the people that were shot?
That will be part of the investigation.
When you say multiple fatalities, can you tell us how many?
No, we don't know. They're still processing the scene.
Do you know how many people were in the store at the time?
Don't know.
How many in the hospital? Multiple people in the hospital? Or dead?
Don't know how many are at the hospital currently. I know for sure there is one.
Commander, was there video of the video cameras that might have taped what happened?
That's all going to be part of the investigation.
Does this man have any connection at all to King Soopers or any of the workers?
I'm not aware of that. I don't know. That's part of the investigation.
Was your first call of a man and an active shooter in the parking lot, then it moved inside?
So I haven't had a chance to review any of those calls, and so I can't tell you in what order things were reported to us.
Was this man wearing military gear?
I'm sorry, I got two questions.
Military style, was he wearing military style gear during this?
Don't know. That'll be part of the investigation.
What about the weapon?
Don't have information on that. As I said, the crime scene folks have just very recently entered the crime scene to start processing.
Is the shirtless guy the person of interest? The shirtless man who was seen taken out in handcuffs and put in an ambulance?
Since I would be speculating of who you're talking about, I can't confirm that.
Commander, not to be critical, but it's been more than 3 hours since you got the call. You can't tell us how many people are dead?
I don't have that information right now.
Does anybody?
That'll be part of the investigation.
Is the suspect at Boulder Community?
So if I could just interject one moment. There's a lot of investigation already underway. A lot of things are being realized as the crime scene's being processed, including the number of victims, which is known to police investigators. But I want to stress that victims' family members are still being notified. So we're being really sensitive to the victims' families. So I appreciate Commander Yamaguchi not giving out more information at this point. But even for the facts of which we're certain, those conversations are going to happen with the families first. Those conversations are now taking place.
If we know there are some...
We're going to be talking to the families first and then giving out more information.
I don't see the connection between the two.
Okay. Well, Boulder Police Department's going to be giving out that information. I recognize the need to get the information out as soon as possible. I do. But I also recognize that we have one suspect in custody. We're going to ensure that justice is done. And to do that, we're going to make sure we have the facts certain and understood before we start sharing them with the media and the public. That's going to happen. That's going to happen in the next couple hours.
Can you tell us if he shared a motive with you? You don't have to share the motive, but is he
presented why he did what he did?
I do not have any information as to the motive at this point. It's really early in the investigation.
Can you release his identification?
I cannot do that at this point, but I can promise you the Boulder Police Department is going to be releasing more information in the next few hours.
How are families who might have been impacted by this, maybe looking for loved ones, being notified that their family members are okay? Can you tell us that?
So the CU Police Department is helping with family members that may have questions about loved ones, and Chief Joe Kirst will be able to provide more information for family members to contact the CU Police Department for information.
Is the suspect already currently scheduled to appear in court?
So there is a suspect in custody. There is no scheduled court appearances yet.
Have there been any charges that have been filed? Will any charges be filed?
Well, the suspect is being treated medically at the hospital right now. I can promise you that we're going to ensure the right thing happens with this case.
Do you only have one from the Boulder area?
That's all I have at this point, but I appreciate you being here, and we'll be giving out more information. The Boulder Police Department will be in charge of giving out more information. I'm going to ask Chief Joe Kirst, if she will, just to let family members know where they could go for or call in for notifications on possible victims.
If people were in the parking lot or saw something, who should they call to get that statement?
Thank you for that question. If there are witnesses out there who have information, and there were many witnesses to this who are cooperating with the investigation already, but if there are additional witnesses, they should contact the Boulder Police Department. But let me turn it over to Chief Joe Kirst.
So if there was witnesses that saw this event, they can contact 303-441-3333, and that's the main number to the Boulder Police Department.
Say that one more time, please.
Yep, no problem. 303-441-3333, and that's the main number to the Boulder Police Department. If there's family or loved ones that have questions as well, they can contact that main number, and they'll be sent an address in regards to additional information there.
Thank you very much. About the courage of your officer, we're told he or she went back in, saved lives by what they did.
And that's all the questions we can take right now. I know you wanted more information, but we don't have any more information we can share at this time. We will continue to post all information that we can on our Twitter, and we will announce the next press conference as soon as we know.
Will there be a procession? Will there be a procession?
How you don't know how
We're hoping to have more information to release later this evening, yes.
Will there be a procession for the fallen officer?
John will probably want to know if we should stay on scene or if we should go home.
I will find out and we will let you know.
Okay. Ma'am, how long will this place be blocked off?
This area, we will continue to ask everybody to avoid the area. This is going to be blocked off for quite some time. So please continue to tell individuals to avoid this area.
Ma'am, some news media has already reported there were 6 victims. Can you correct that or confirm that? Because it's already out there.
Yeah, it is. And we will have this. We will have more information to release soon. So thank you for your patience. There will be more information released tonight. Yes, there will.
Is it a man a suspect or a woman?
There's going to be more information with
All right, so there you have it. Not too many details, but there is some confirmation of what we've been reporting today. Multiple people dead, including one Boulder police officer, and they were quick to point out without a quick response from other agencies, there would have been much more loss of life.
Yeah, not getting into the specific number of people that have died, although, as you just heard, media really pressing it. They did say that one suspect was taken into custody. They said that person was injured as well in this incident that happened at the King Supers. You heard the Commander Kerry Yamaguchi saying that they did their best to prevent the loss of life. They're trying to honor the privacy of the officer's family and coworkers, not releasing any more information about the officer that lost their life, speaking to the tremendous support they received from fellow law enforcement. Also, a reporter asking specifically about this person of interest that was in custody, asking again, is it this man that you see in this video, the one person that we saw in handcuffs being led outside of the building by police officers? Commander Yamaguchi saying multiple times that he didn't want to get into specifics. He said if he confirmed this, it would be speculative in nature at this point. And then we heard Michael Doherty kind of come to his defense, saying that they were trying to make sure that they had all of their facts completely intact before they went public with them in order to ensure that justice was done for all of the victims that suffered today in the tragedy.
Part of that, they say, is that they are still processing the scene. They said, yes, we know how many people died. We're not going to say, though, to the media just yet, because we're still notifying families. That came from the district attorney there. They, as we said, are still processing the scene, but won't confirm the number killed, only saying that that one injured party is apparently the suspect. We do want to thank those of you who are just joining us on Channel 2 News at 7 for joining our ongoing breaking news coverage of this mass shooting today at a King Soopers in South Boulder. At least six people dead, including a Boulder police officer in this King Soopers shooting. You heard the King Soopers spokesperson, Kelly McGannon, who we've worked with over the years closely. She said, our hearts are broken over this senseless act of violence. And as we've said, it's a familiar thing that Kroger, the parent company, had a shooting at one of their Wisconsin warehouses just days ago.
Yeah, you know, one of the other questions that was asked multiple times by reporters here was, do we know if there was any connection? Was there a motive? Was there a reason that the gunman decided to go into King Soopers? And again, that's something that they said that they were still processing, still investigating. Another new piece of information, we've been bringing you the apartment scene there on 17th and Grove, and the officer saying that they do believe that was unrelated to this incident. Certainly social media going wild, saying that this was some sort of a corroborated incident. So that was one thing they did definitively say, that they do believe so far the 17th and Grove apartments where there was an armed and dangerous person reported, they do believe that was unrelated. They also made the point that CU Police Department is helping with family at this point. So if you have any loved one that you're still trying to get a hold of, if you still have unanswered questions, maybe regarding your students or any of the other particulars regarding people, they want you to get a hold of the CU Police Department.
One other quick thing to point out, so many people wondering about motive. We certainly wonder about it. I've had people texting me wondering why did this person do it. The police said they are not sure of the relationship, if any, between the suspect and those who were shot. That is something they hope to answer in the coming days. Our Vicente Arenas, one of many reporters there on the scene for us tonight. Vicente, you were right there as the questions were asked, and sadly there were as many unanswered as there were answered, if not more.
As these things go, Jeremy, it is very early on in the investigation. I thought one of the things that stood out is that they were not saying if there might have been anybody else involved in this shooting. One of the questions I asked of the commander and the district attorney was if there was anything that was said before the shooting took place. Of course, they're not answering that question. Still so many questions tonight about exactly what happened. They're trying to figure it all out still. And one thing to kind of walk back in this press conference, we as reporters are always wanting to know more information, but I thought that one very poignant part of this news conference tonight is that they are still trying to notify family members. We live in a society now where we always want information very quickly, but you have to understand that there could be people who are dead that family members don't even know. So I can see why they would keep some of that information not quite public just yet. I mean, when we were here earlier today, there were people that were, one man in particular, basically in tears, looking for his son, a guy who worked at Starbucks. So this is one reason they're saying we can only give you so much information now. We want it now. Another question I asked was if there was any video surveillance that might have showed us exactly the sequence of events that took place. Again, they're saying all that is under investigation. We are expecting to get more information tonight from the Boulder Police Department. It is not clear if that will be a news conference, but in the past, the way Boulder PD does something like this is that they release information in tweets, so we will be watching for that. We were there just a short while after this shooting took place, and we saw the person that the Boulder Police Department was talking about be loaded into an ambulance, and we could see the police officers that were around him talking to him. We saw as this individual that has been identified as at least the shooter or one of the shooters, at least one shooter they're saying, as he was being loaded into the police department. Still tonight we do not know if he acted alone or if there were others. So they were just a lot of questions that were being asked tonight. And again tonight the CU Police Department trying to help families reunite with those family members who still may have a lot of questions, Jeremy and Aristea. So it's frustrating. It is. But at the same time, you got to give them some room to kind of work their way through this, you guys.
To process it, right, along with the rest of the community. All right, Vicente, thank you so much. Nicole Fierro right now on scene. We understand, Nicole, you have a witness who was locked in the bathroom at one point in King Supers.
Yeah, really heartbreaking conversation just had with a man named David. He came up to us shaking. We embraced, and he just said he's dealing with such trauma right now from what he heard and saw inside. He said he was going to get sushi, and all of a sudden he heard gunfire going off. There was a bathroom nearby. He sprinted and ran behind a urinal. That's where he hid as he heard shots going off. He said these shots were not going into the air, and that's the painful thing. He heard potentially neighbors, loved ones being shot in the grocery store beyond the walls of that bathroom where he was hiding for his life. Now, he told us he is so traumatized, and now he's just wondering if he knows who these victims are. He said this is the place where people go to get their groceries. He goes there all the time to get his favorite sushi, and that all of his friends go there. He's friends with the workers, so he's just so terrified to find out who is the victims in this situation, as so many other people in our community are. He said he came from New York and that he thought this was a peaceful place, and he would never expect something like this to happen, never expect to hear what he heard, to hide in the bathroom for his life. And you can only imagine what he's going through right now.
Nicole, thank you for that. Apologies. We are getting information from our control room here, too. We will continue this coverage for the next few minutes here, both on Fox 31, on Channel 2 News as well. And then, of course, we'll have updates throughout the evening on our Fox 31 News app and on Channel 2. But stay with us for the next few moments as we continue to update you on what we just learned from Boulder Police in this long-awaited news conference where they confirmed multiple people killed. We have reported and confirmed at least 6 dead, but Boulder Police will not give us that exact number. They say they want to reach out to families before they give us the exact number of those who were killed, and they say they're still processing this crime scene. No details on the motive, but we do know this all happened a little over 4 hours ago, and it has been a frantic scene ever since as law enforcement converged on the south side of Boulder for this shooting outside the King Supers right there. We do anticipate a procession tonight involving that one law enforcement officer who was killed, that Boulder police officer. Usually these things go from the scene of the crime to the local coroner's office. Not sure exactly what time that's going to happen just yet.
And sort of the other big headline, too, from Boulder Police Commander Kerry Yamaguchi was that this person of interest is in custody at this point. They said that person was injured in the incident as well. But again, as Vicente was saying earlier, still a lot of unanswered questions at this point. We don't know, again, how many fatalities. That's the big thing. They say they're still processing the scene. We don't know how many are at the hospital currently. The commander did detail the one person of interest that was injured and being treated. We don't know, again, if that man has a connection to King Supers anyway. There were also questions asked surrounding the weapon, like from a couple of different witnesses. We had heard an AR-15 weapon possibly was used. No information at this point surrounding the weapon either. We've got Michael Konopasek right in front of our screen there, as well as a huge team of reporters fanned out all around the Boulder Metro covering this story for you. Michael, you obviously were able to listen in on the press conference. Still a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, just as Jeremy was saying, there's perhaps more unanswered questions than answered questions as we take a live look here as it starts to become darker here in Boulder. Still a lot of police here on scene. And yes, I was just live tweeting the information that was coming in. And as Vicente noted as well, one of the big things that stuck out with me is that the victims' family members are still being notified. The person of interest is being treated for injuries at a hospital. Police do believe that the area is now safe, but when Boulder police were asked if there was only one shooter, police responded, "We are still investigating." So they would not say one way or the other on that. Authorities can't or won't say how many people have died in total, but we have been getting sourced information that it has been widely reported, as you heard reporters shouting with questions. We've been hearing it 6. 6 is already out there, is what one reporter said. But again, police staying tight-lipped lip due to the sensitivity of the investigation. They don't want to jeopardize the investigation. So we weren't expecting a lot of details from this press conference, because that's usually we get that later at a later time. And one thing also that stood out to me, Aristea and Jeremy, was hearing from King Soopers. And the first thing that spokeswoman said was, "Our hearts are broken. Our hearts are broken." A short statement from King Soopers there. And Boulder police also saying, without the tremendous police response, they're unsure if more life would have been lost. It's likely that many more people could have died without the tremendous response from all over the Denver and Boulder metro area here. The DA calling this a tragedy, of course, and a nightmare. Some of the takeaways that I got from this press conference as we continue to take a live look here and as we prepare for the procession of that police officer. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Michael, thank you. Again, our coverage continues right now on our news partners, Channel 2. If you're watching on Channel 2, please stay with us. If you're with us on Fox 31 and would like to continue watching our coverage, switch over to Channel 2 or the Fox 31 News app as our coverage of this breaking news story continues right now. And again, we are coming to you live. For those of you joining us here on Channel 2, we appreciate it. And if anybody switching over from Fox 31, we appreciate that too. This is coverage of the breaking news story today and the heartbreaking news that we just confirmed a short time ago. 6 people dead after a mass shooting at a King Soopers store on the south side of Boulder today.
Yeah, the Boulder police.